Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. We're waiting for these tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the internet before we dive into the day. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully. Tomorrow is Friday. We're excited about that, but we're not there yet. We got a bunch of business to attend to today, and today we're talking a little bit more Kilmar activity. Yes, the Democrats' most beloved gangbanger extraordinaire, Kilmar, wife beater, Abrego Garcia. A lot more has broken since we spoke yesterday. We're going to go through it. We, of course, know who is in charge of this case. Her name is Judge Paula Zenas out of Maryland. And what's so curious about this is we're learning that Kilmar was stopped for human trafficking. Wow. In addition to the wife beatings, this is going to get fun. So we got that story. Of course, the Tennessee Star rather, is the entity that reported about this, saying the Maryland man was stopped for human trafficking on suspicion of human trafficking. Amazing. Had like 7 people in the car with him. I don't know what they were doing, but we'll talk about it. We got that. And then in addition to that, we learned yesterday that Kilmar wife beater, Abrego Garcia, was somebody who had 2 domestic violence cases. And as we contemplated today, there was going to be a lot more to the story than just those case records that we saw on the screen, courtesy of Andy No, NGO in the house. But there was, and Fox News got their hands on the narrative drafted by the wife, explaining exactly what happened and explaining the baby was crying. He pulled out like crazy and scratched her on her left eye and left her bleeding. Amazing. So what we'll see is Kilmar is, of course, going to have to explain himself, I'm sure, at some point, or at least the Democrats will, the ones who are so in love with this dude, will have to explain what that means. We got updates from Andy NGO. Shout out to Andy NGO. And then, of course, we've got updates from Will Chamberlain, who did that amazing thread a while back. He dropped 2 additional threads connecting a lot of the dots here for us with red boxes. You know how much we get excited about any red markups on documents. Look at these boxes, baby. Yeah. All right, Will. All right, shout out. So we'll go through that and see what the latest is before we listen to what Pam Bondi had to say about this, all in the Kilmar stuff. But before we jump into any of that stuff, what I think would be most important to do would to be seeing what the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals is saying about this, because there was also, what the heck is your boy doing over here? All right, let's get this situated here. For some reason, my screen is being very wonky with us while we're in the middle of the show. Anyways, so then we're going to talk about this Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Got it. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. We'll be going through this one because Trump laid down the ruckus in his emergency motion for a stay, saying, you cannot force us to bring this dude back or to really engage in discovery, which is this next step that we're about to embark upon. And so they filed that. The Fourth Circuit came back down. They issued this insane order that was written by these Looney Tune judges that we'll talk about, and we'll refresh our recollection on some key legal phrases coming up. So that is what came out from the Fourth Circuit. Lots of reaction to this because even Pocahontas was out screaming about this, banging the war drum, saying, bring this gangbanger back to America. And the Democrats are doubling down on this. They brought out the wife. It looks like her face looks good, probably because her husband's been locked up for a while. But anyways, she's doing great. And she's still out here explaining why she needs this illegal alien back home in our country. So we'll go through that. We've also got this senator who cares more about gangbangers than he does his own constituents who've lost their kids to illegals in his own state. He is saying there's going to be more Democrats. They're all going to come back down, and even Hillary Clinton is getting in on the fun. So we've got a bunch of Democrats and updates from them. Caroline Levitt is jumping in. We got Tom Homan, who's explaining his take on this, and we'll go through all of that. Then we'll talk about the Boasberg situation because this judge has gone nuts too, man. Judge has gone wild today here on the show. But he as we remember, he doesn't have any jurisdiction over this case anymore. The Supreme Court, we went through it in detail yesterday, but we'll just hit the highlight again, that those couple key sentences of what the Supreme Court said, hey, your TROs are vacated and venue is improper in your courtroom. So they should file their habeas claims elsewhere. So then what he did is yesterday came out and said he's going to retain jurisdiction over the case because he's got contempt power, arguing that even though his order was illegal and vacated by the Supreme Court because he had no jurisdiction, he's going to still hold Trump in contempt for not following his orders anyways. The response to that, well, you have to follow the orders even if they're illegal. And the cases that the judges have cited have been against private individuals, not against the president of the United States or the executive branch, which is a co-equal branch. So you're saying a co-equal branch has to follow a clear unlawful order from another co-equal branch? It's called co-equal for a reason. Now, obviously, if they think there's a problem with that, then the people can be upset about it and impeach Trump. We'll come back on that later. All right, calm down, Rob. So we'll talk about Boasberg. We've got what they asked for. They said, can you please retake control of this case and issue another TRO, even though you have no jurisdiction over it? And the judge is like, you know what? Sure, that sounds great. I'll do it. So we'll talk about what happens next. We'll see if Trump is appealing this immediately, I would imagine, kind of waiting for something to hit the Supreme Court any minute now, but probably will hit on a Friday. But we did ask about this judge and whether he was going to be impeached or what happened. But we remember Representative Brandon Gill, he's from Texas, shout out, and he introduced a bill to impeach Judge Boasberg. And so, man, hopefully this stuff continues to percolate up through Congress and they get off their booties and do something about it. Maybe raise some ruckus around this. So we'll talk about that. Then here's the big question. What does the American public think about this? Do they want more gangbangers here in America? Do they want the Democrats like MS-13 senator from Maryland going down there, breaking him out and dragging him back? Answer, no, we don't want that. And even CNN is commenting on this, saying, we want control of our borders and our population. We've been invaded for the last 4 years and we're sick of it. So we've got a bunch of great stuff coming up, my friends. Very glad that you're here and with us. Thank you for joining us on this amazing Thursday. I hope your week is fruitful and you're accomplishing everything. We also had a great members only stream this morning. If we missed you, we missed you and it hurts. So I hope you can join us tomorrow when we come back for our members only stream, 12 noon tomorrow. We have a great time. We talk about a bunch of other things that we can't get to here. We have an amazing community. It's a great way to support the show and grab some extra content and meet some amazing people. So come check that out. You can join on YouTube or on Locals, watching thewatchers.locals.com, or click that join button. And we'd love to see you come hang. All right. So now, without any further ado, let's get into this because let's start with the Fourth Circuit today because they're throwing a temper tantrum over there. And we'll get this one out of the way, but it starts like this. President Trump going to the Court of Appeals in the Fourth Circuit saying, the judge down below, Judge Paula Zenas, who says that you have to bring Kilmar, Armando, wife beater, Abrego Garcia back into the United States. They're saying she's wrong. She doesn't have the power to order us to do that, number one. She also doesn't have the power to order discovery because the judge kind of got a little bit of a backhand from the Supreme Court saying, provide the executive branch with the due deference that they deserve. And then she said, well, okay, if I can't effectuate it because she can't control that, then I'll facilitate it. And basically read the Supreme Court decision as though it was a victory for her, but it wasn't. Trump is also declaring it a victory for himself. And so this judge, of course, we know who she is. Judge Paula Zenas, this judge right here, who was appointed by Barack Obama as a political appointee, no judicial experience prior to that, was a public defender who ultimately merged into somebody who sued law enforcement and got rich with the law enforcement settlements. Also, interestingly, volunteered at the House of Ruth, which is an organization to help women who are abused, is now ordering Kilmar, Abrego Garcia to come back. Well, of course, Trump was not complying with that, nor should he, because he's not obligated to do that. It's not her prerogative. He invoked the Alien Enemies Act. This guy, Kilmar, was declared MS-13 in court documents. We've covered them here at length. The documents are here, and this is all due process. You can see it on the screen. So this is where we're at. Now, the president has asked the courts to stop this judge from forcing them to do something that she has no power to force them to do. Here's what they said to the Fourth Circuit. And the Fourth Circuit came back down and they were not happy with Trump or this. We'll read that in a minute. But here's what the argument was. They said, all right, listen, Court of Appeals, this judge is acting out of turn. They said Article 2 of the Constitution, in case you haven't read it, bestows on the president and through him, the executive branch, the exclusive power over foreign relations. The Supreme Court reaffirmed that principle in this very case, unanimously rejecting Judge Zenas' unprecedented command that the executive branch actually effectuate the return of Abrego Wife-Beater Garcia from El Salvador. A reminder, he's not an American citizen. He has no lawful status in our country at all. He doesn't have asylum or any of those bozo claims. He's not a lawful permanent resident or any of those things. He is an illegal alien who is totally undocumented, other than the fact that he had an order of removal, except the withholding of removal to El Salvador, which that removal protection evaporated. Okay, those are two separate things. An order of removal saying we can throw you out of here, but we're not going to throw you out of here to El Salvador. And the El Salvador withholding protection was evaporated as soon as Trump came in and said, you're MS-13. And that was codified, was documented in the filings that he challenged in court, and he lost, and then lost on appeal and didn't provide any evidence to rebut those claims. So it's been adjudicated. He's had his hearing. He's had his due process. Nobody's saying don't give this guy due process. He's had plenty of it. Force a foreign, they say, a foreign sovereign. They say, this is ridiculous. You can't force a foreign sovereign to relinquish one of its own citizens. He is an El Salvadorian. Under the guise of an amended order, because the judge was told you can't order Trump to effectuate anything right by the Supreme Court, which is obvious. However, the same district court, Judge Zenas, rhymes with, has set down the same unjustifiable path, all in service of a member of a foreign terrorist organization with no valid right to be in the United States in the first place. This court's immediate intervention, Court of Appeals, is needed. Now, the federal courts do not have the authority to press gang the president or his agents into taking any particular act of diplomacy. Instead, in this context, the courts only have the broad authority to order the executive to facilitate the return of an alien removed abroad. And as that term has long been understood and applied, that means the executive must remove any domestic barriers to the alien's return. Okay, domestic. It does not and constitutionally cannot involve a directive to take any action upon a foreign nation, because if the judge can order the president to do something, who has more power? Oh, the judge does, obviously. The district court, though, has crossed that line again. Notwithstanding the fact that Trump had filed a declaration affirming that the United States is in the process of removing domestic impediments to any return on the part of Abrego Garcia. And remember, they filed that declaration. They said, Your Honor, okay, we're working hard on this. We're going to remove any impediments to him coming back to the United States. They filed a declaration. We read it. It raised some eyebrows. People said, huh? We're going to facilitate his return to the United States? Yes, exactly. Soon as he shows up at a port of entry, we're going to facilitate him just like this into the back of another police vehicle. Whoop! Because he's going to get deported again. So we're just going to take him down to the station, process him accordingly, then go through all of these things that we've already done, and then kick him out again. And so we'll facilitate that happily. Would you like that? And she said, ah! The judge went nuts, right? How dare you? To any part of the Abrego Garcia, first of all, they want him. He's a member of a foreign terrorist organization. Now, they may disagree with that. They may say he's not a terrorist. MS-13 is not a terrorist organization or whatever. They're not the president. They don't get to substitute their judgment for the president's judgment. That's how this is a judgment call. And Trump was elected and empowered to make that decision, not these hack judges. They say who no longer has any right to withholding of removal in the first place, right? And as soon as this body, because they're like, well, they're just gangbangers, just selling drugs and all, and it's not a terrorist organization. Meanwhile, they've got hierarchical structures. They're being operated and funded from foreign entities. They are coordinating an invasion and an exploitation of the whole country. What is that if that is not terrorism on the country? Murdering people's kids? and friends and family and loved ones. It's a horrific situation going on. It's clearly terrorism. The president got elected on this issue. So when they snub us, when they snub Trump on this, they're snubbing us, all of us, who has no longer the right to withholding of removal in the first place. It was invalidated. Legally invalidated. Withholding doesn't apply to terrorists. And he was found to be a member of MS-13 by law enforcement, had been identified accordingly, and it was written in court documents. Now, the district court has demanded more, they say, ridiculous. It has ordered Trump to go beyond the long-standing understanding of what facilitation even requires under immigration law, necessarily be going beyond what Article 3 allows a court to do. She has no power to do this. In the setting of a case involving a citizen of a foreign sovereign who is a member of a foreign terrorist organization held in the domestic custody of that sovereign, there is no question that the executive, Trump, and their foreign affairs powers are at their apex, their maximum, their climax. But here, a single district court judge, Judge Paula Zenas of Maryland, has inserted herself into the foreign policy of the United States and said, I'm the president now, and has tried to dictate it from the bench. Emergency relief is needed, Court of Appeals. Now, as bad as that is, while Judge Zenas has rejected this well-established definition of facilitate, it refused to provide any sort of definition of its own. And worse, and this is, they do a lot of this, okay? They come up with words. It's like a straw man. And they argue around the word without even defining it or explaining what it is. Like they do this with due process all the time. Or they call Kilmar innocent or no criminal charges. You know, what do you mean exactly? Or the list goes on and on. But here, they continue telling us, and worse, it then ordered an extensive and expedited discovery after Trump made his decision into the executive branch to probe how it has or might effectuate this ill-defined directive. And everybody can say what the word means. Facilitate means essentially effectuate, even though the Supreme Court said effectuate is beyond your power. So she's just shoehorning effectuate into facilitate. Now, the result is a fishing expedition captained by the gangbanger lawyers, armed with an open-ended mandate to just go and ransack whatever they want through the files of the DOJ, who've already ordered scores of production requests, burdensome interrogatories, and at least 4 or perhaps more depositions of executive branch officials. The gangbanger lawyers are going hog wild. It's like, we're going to get Rubio in here, Nome in here, Pam Bondi in here, bring them in here. They all said state secrets in the Boasberg case. And all, so haul them in here, right? This is what it's all about. And then they'll use this as evidence for impeachment or whatever. Now, at minimum, that is untenable. How dare another court call in the executive branch for doing its job? And Muir's mistakes regarding governmental discovery and other appellate courts have corrected in mandamus. And of course, we talked about this yesterday, and my thought process was, well, what stops Trump from pardoning every single person and just saying, get bent? All right, there's nothing going on here, especially in the Boasberg case when he's holding everybody in contempt. But obviously, the same thing can happen here. He could say, no, you're not getting any discovery. Oh, you're in contempt, sanctions. Oh, okay, whatever. Do whatever you want, judge. Appoint a special prosecutor, prosecute everybody, pardoned in that case too. Pardoned over here too. Pardoned over here too. And Congress can throw a fit about it. The American people, I think, will be fine with it because in both of these cases, we're trying to keep the people that we elected Trump to get out of our country. So they tell the Court of Appeals, this court must act. It should stay Judge Zenas's amended injunction, which extends beyond its authority, and it should grant mandamus to direct Judge Zenas to vacate her capacious discovery order. Now, in the meantime, Trump respectfully requests this court issue an immediate administrative stay. Counsel for the gangbanger lawyers were notified by email, and they opposed this motion, obviously. So here's the statement. They say, all right, Court of Appeals for Fourth Circuit, Kilmar wife beater Armando Abrego Garcia is a citizen and native of El Salvador. Okay, El Salvador. Far from an ordinary resident of Maryland, man, Abrego wife beater is a member of the designated foreign terrorist organization called MS-13. He has never been lawfully admitted into the United States. And in 2019, He was ordered removed from this country. Ordered removed. So then on March 15th, he was finally removed from El Salvador to El Salvador. Now, while they did not go through the formal procedures to terminate his withholding of removal order, Abrego Garcia is no longer eligible for that form of protection. It is invalidated because he's been given a membership in a foreign terrorist organization. It's gone, no longer applies. Now, there, of course, in this little they'll say, well, that's where it should have happened. You should have had some due process about that. You should have gone through some formal procedures to terminate that with that particular court in some way, shape, or form. Let's see what they say. On March 24th, plaintiffs filed this suit challenging wife beater's removal to his native country. All the ACLU gangbanger lawyers came in here. So on April 4th, and now this is interesting too, because formal procedures, I'm sure they went through some procedures. I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but the formal procedures that were articulated by the court for a non-terrorist, because the Alien Enemies Act, that's why I want to see what they say, but the Alien Enemies Act, you would argue the procedures would be internal to the executive branch, just kind of like what FDR did when he rounded everybody up during World War II, and the left never talks about that. But in other words, can those formal procedures be complied with within the executive? And if it can, it's pretty interesting to me that they're once again kind of acknowledging that it did not go through that. Like, that's kind of an admission there. Now, on March 24th, they then filed this lawsuit challenging the removal. On April 4th, the district court preliminarily enjoined Trump to, and said this, you must enjoin, usually feels like it means like stopping something, but it's you must do this. Facilitate and effectuate the return of Abrego Garcia no later than midnight on Monday. We were screaming like, oh man, clock's ticking. So then on April 7th, the Court of Appeals affirmed this. Judge Wilkinson concurred only in the denial of the motion for a stay pending appeal, but wrote to emphasize that the order should be read no broader than requiring facilitate, okay? Facilitate, because effectuate is the judge ordering the executive branch to do something they're not entitled to do. Even the judge, writing to the court again, saying, stress the executive's broad authority in international relations, it must afford it latitude as to how this can be accomplished. So then we appealed to the Supreme Court. So then on April 7th, John Roberts issued a stay to stop the arbitrary deadline of midnight. Get him back or else. A few days later, then they granted our application in part, writes Trump. The court affirmed that Trump must, quote, facilitate, use that word as a term of art legally, Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador. But it did so only insofar in such as the directive gave, there you go, due regard, right? This is what they always skip over that we've been pounding like a mad person here. For the deference owed to the executive branch, the deference owed in the conduct of foreign affairs, and track the well-established policy of the executive branch, right? That has normally been followed. That's my point about this formal procedures thing. Now, the court unanimously rejected the effort, the unprecedented directive from Judge Zenas to, there it is, effectuate the removal from El Salvador. For example, or in practice, force a sovereign to relinquish one of its own citizens, he's from there, who's being detained pursuant to its own sovereign domestic authority, right? And I don't know what their legal system looks like down there, but he's from El Salvador. He's one of their citizens. So whatever their judicial system looks like, I don't know if they have habeas corpus down there or what, but they can deal with it. And we're not going to, you don't have jurisdiction over their processing of their own citizen. He's not a lawful permanent resident of the United States. He doesn't have asylum. He doesn't have any lawful reason to be here under the law. Now, the court remanded for Zenas to clarify its order in a way they told her, do not exceed your district court authority. Don't. But they didn't care. She didn't care. The Supreme Court told her to her face in writing, said, due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch, you must afford that, but she didn't care. Zenas issued an amended preliminary injunction that same night without even hearing from the government. Didn't even listen to us. Said, oh, perfect. I'm just going to do this. Zenas revised her order to, quote, direct that Trump take all available steps to facilitate the return of wife-beater Garcia to the United States as soon as possible. The district court also ordered a supplemental declaration by the next day from an individual with someone who knows about this dude's status, as well as the other steps to facilitate his return. I want an update. So then we had a hearing. Now, Judge Zenas held that Trump failed to comply with my new injunction. I gave you specific instructions. Answer those 3 questions every single day or else. And Trump didn't. Right? We read through them here. They're like, he's in El Salvador. Next day, he's still in El Salvador. Next day. Yeah, guess what? He's still in El Salvador. So the court then ordered daily declarations from sufficiently senior executive officials. And then then one of those days, I think they got the guy who like changes the light bulbs. Like, hey, what are you up to? He's like, just changing the light bulbs in here. You want to fill out an affidavit? He's like, yeah. What you got? So then he signed it. He's like, well, I was there. I saw a lot of stuff. So, and then the judge's like, who the hell is this guy? To give regular updates about the status, plus steps taken to facilitate his return. So then we submitted those daily status updates. On the first day, someone was able to attest. They said, yeah, Abrego Garcia was alive and secure. Okay, relax. Said he's detained pursuant to El Salvador, their authority. Then on April 14th, Bukele came, visited Trump. A declaration emphasized, they said, hey, now, DHS doesn't have the authority to forcibly extract someone from a foreign prison because he's their citizen. They said, but the agency has established processes. We can facilitate his return. We can remove obstacles that would otherwise prevent him from lawfully entering the United States. And we said, we figured it out. Guess what? Trump said, we're here. We can help. Here's our solution. They said the next day, we told Judge Zenas, Court of Appeals, that we said, look, if Abrego wife-beater Garcia does present at a port of entry, he would not be turned away. Not at all. And everybody went, what? Instead, even though Garcia is a member of a foreign terrorist organization, even though we're going to take him into detention, okay? And that means we're going to facilitate his presence in the United States. Happy? We'll just take him into custody again and then deport him again, is what the rest of that declaration said. Now, on April 15th, the district court Judge Zenas held a status conference. That was earlier this week, and then ordered wide-ranging expedited discovery. And we listened to that hearing. We read through the excerpt if you missed it, in connection with its amended injunctive order. Said, well, we got 2 weeks and we're going to go fast and you're going to give them everything that they want. And the gangbanger lawyers are going to be able to demand this and all this stuff. Specifically, that court authorized the gangbang lawyers to demand 15 requests of production documents, 15 interrogatories. They authorized at least 4 high-ranking depositions with Rubio and Nome and who knows who else, with the possibility of 2 more. Now, that court, Zenas, broadly defined the scope of this discovery as anything related to Abrego Garcia, wife-beater's current status, as well as all past or future steps to facilitate his removal to the United States. It also ordered all of this completed next week. Now, here's what they tell the Court of Appeals. We'll read their response in a minute, but they say, look, the decision of whether to grant a stay depends on 4 factors. Are we going to win? Are we going to be irreparably injured? Is it going to injure other people? And where does the public interest lie? They say, let's be clear about this. Judge Zenas has ordered something that is unconstitutional. She's required Trump to take all available steps to facilitate the return of Abrego as soon as possible. And it has since made clear that that command extends beyond how facilitate has been traditionally understood, right? It's domestic. She's like, no, do this and do that. You should go and cancel your contracts with Bukele, or you should end financial aid to the country. Or you should do whatever it is to put pressure on them to facilitate, which is, of course, impinging on Trump's foreign affairs power. Now she's in charge. It says that extension is well past what the Constitution permits, and that is not at all what the Supreme Court ordered. This Court of Appeals should promptly stay Zenas's unconstitutional directive. Now, the federal courts do not have the authority to force the president to engage in a particular act of diplomacy or engage with a foreign sovereign in any given matter. That is the exclusive power of the president as the sole organ of the federal government. That power is conclusive and preclusive. From Trump versus United States, look at that one from 2024. Saying foreign decisions are of a kind for which the judiciary has neither the aptitude, the facilities, nor the responsibility, for which has been long held to belong to the domain of political power, not judicial power or inquiry, right? And there's a lot of people, I think, that have this concept confused when they try to understand American politics. It's like these judges would say, well, that's a bad policy, or this is something that I wouldn't have done, or this went different. I wouldn't have done that. Or how dare you make whatever your decision is, no one cares. The question is, does Trump have the legal power to do it? Can he do it? You might think it's offensive or politically improper or rude or mean or cruel or whatever you want. But they are political decisions to be made. The question is, does Trump have the power to do it? Clearly he does. And they're misinterpreting the rules and stepping outside of their Venn diagram, outside of their circle into Trump's branch of power. And that is not allowed. So this continues. They say a federal court cannot stop the executive branch to perform some diplomatic act or issue an injunction where that act is essential for compliance. Now, saying, right, Trump, in order to comply with a court order, you have to do this thing. This is because the federal equity power cannot extend beyond what the separation of powers will allow. And the Constitution's separation of powers compels the president's independent authority over foreign affairs, and it must be free from the interference of the judiciary. Now, applying these principles, any court order to, quote, facilitate the return of a foreign national from a foreign land must be limited to domestic measures, because you don't have jurisdiction outside of that. Indeed, that is what the term is long meant to mean in the immigration context. Facilitate, to engage in activities that would allow a removed alien to travel to the United States, like by granting parole, may be appropriate. In other words, facilitate is to remove domestic obstacles. And we're doing that. We're going to take him into custody as soon as he comes back. The federal courts, including this court, have consistently respected this limit and have ordered relief consistent with the outer bounds of their own authority. But unsurprisingly, that's exactly what the Supreme Court told you to do, Judge Zenas. But again, the Supreme Court unanimously rejected her unprecedented command to force Trump, to force El Salvador to give up one of their own citizens. And in affirming that Trump should, quote, facilitate the release from custody in El Salvador, the court emphasized that the scope of the order was conditioned by the deference owed to the executive branch that she doesn't give a rip about. In more concrete terms, tracking what the government pressed in its brief before, the Supreme Court ordered that Trump needed to follow the well-established policy that was just described. But the district court breached this line. She exceeded the bounds of her authority. The court rejected that above as a fallacy. And it insisted that its order went beyond taking all available steps to remove any domestic obstacles that would otherwise bar Abrego from returning, saying that is unlawful. The understanding of facilitate described above marks the outer bounds of what she can do. Anything further than that is encroaching on us on Article 2. Now, she offered two justifications for this, but neither one is colorable. First, Zenas relied on the dictionary definitions of the word facilitate, saying that requires more expansive governmental effort. So what are they supposed to do? She said but they say in immigration, we don't look at the dictionary. When it comes to immigration, we look at how we use it in immigration. In the immigration context, to facilitate an alien's return, it's a term of art. Long-standing practice, we've talked about this before, not the first time something like this has come up. And that definition is far narrower than the ordinary meaning. It does not include all things to make the occurrence of something easier. It's cabined, it's limited to domestic measures. You can't reach past the sovereign lands of the United States to facilitate something outside of our jurisdiction. So her use of the dictionaries is not appropriate. She's reading an expansive term where the legal term is appropriate. And second, Judge Zenas asserted that Trump appears to have done nothing, And we called that out yesterday, I think, when we said, what is she saying? Like appear? Like you going to look into it or what? because they submitted declarations saying they did it, they did it, they did it. So you should just read the filings because they've told you what they've done. They'll accept him at the port of entry. But that is completely wrong. In the days following the remand, they told her the DHS has established processes for taking steps to remove obstacles. And just yesterday, we told you, Judge, if he shows up at a port of entry, he would not be turned away like he normally would. We'll place him in detention, okay? That's going to facilitate his entry into the United States. We're totally complying with what you said. How can you say that we're not? It's literally what we'll do. Now, the district court, what they want, like she wants them to return him back to his wife, probably with some, mitts on or something, just to be safe. Just keep your hands in your pockets for a little while the cameras are on you guys. And then once he's back, right, then they'll file a whole bunch of additional claims. Oh, asylum and this, and now he's political refugee and all this crap, right? So they'll just file a bunch of additional claims now that he's here to stop and to preserve the order of withholding, right? Which is how it would go. So the district court's minimization of these efforts from Judge Zenas is indicative of its utter maximalist view of facilitate because she thinks she's the president. And it is a clear marker that the courts below will try to force that view on Trump until an appellate court stops it. Like, you got to bring this guy back, roll out the red carpet, give him a nice Uber black car right into the wife's arms, if she is his wife. This court should do so immediately. It should stay Judge Zenas's amended injunction insofar as it goes beyond what she's allowed to do. They can't tell us how to facilitate anything. And it should stop Zenas and her recurring effort constantly to effectively conduct our diplomacy with El Salvador from Greenbelt, Maryland. Now, Zenas's amended injunction also violates the mandate rule. The Supreme Court made clear the original preliminary injunction required clarification, Judge, before it could even become effective, and further ordered the district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. And that deference, by the way, includes the stamp of Congress under the Alien Enemies Act. The district court flouted this mandate. She says, I don't care. Far from giving due regard to Trump in clarifying this order, it refused to even permit Trump to file a brief before an amended injunction was issued mere hours after the Supreme Court stay came down, right? She was just waiting. And as far as its substance, Judge Zenas relegated the Supreme Court directive to a footnote in a subsequent order after we objected. And even there, the court failed to meaningfully engage with it, let alone tailor its order to what SCOTUS said. So she's flouting the order. They tell the Court of Appeals, no discovery is appropriate in this case. Trump has done and is doing exactly what the Supreme Court of the United States has ordered. They are removing domestic impediments to a Brago wife beater's return, and they are facilitating that return. If he shows up, we'll do it. But even putting that aside, Zenas's discovery order harbors fundamental infirmities. The Supreme Court has long recognized that a discovery order improperly intrudes upon the separation of powers and satisfies the requirements of a mandamus. Just look at the Cheney case. That's the case here. Now, at true minimum, Judge Zenas should have put forward a definition of facilitate, told us what that is, before ordering invasive discovery into the executive branch. But that court refused to do that, failing to offer any guidance at all beyond rejecting what Trump proffered. That does not work at all, Your Honors. Before going down the road of intrusive discovery into what Trump have done to date and what they will do in the future, it was incumbent upon Zenas to define what they were in fact supposed to do under her order. The alternative leaves a moving discovery target at best and a blank check for the plaintiffs at worst. The court should grant a mandamus, order Zenas to first decide this issue so we even know what to do. Ordering discovery into a separate branch of government is a weighty step that should never be taken lightly. At the very least, respect for a coordinate branch of government requires a federal court to resolve all threshold issues before taking the extraordinary step of ordering discovery. Indeed, the D.C. Circuit even recently stayed a discovery order into the executive branch for this exact reason, where they failed to resolve a pending motion before doing so. But those principles apply here. Zenas ordered far-reaching discovery to the probe. She added measures about what we must do to facilitate this. But so long as the term is undefined, whatever that means, discovery will be open-ended. That's the point. Ding, 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 bingo, right? If there's no definition, you can fish around for whatever you want. Like if you don't know what fish you're looking for, you can whatever you catch is going to be successful. You don't even care if you catch fish. The result will be a fishing expedition, which is improper even in ordinary litigation. But on the other side, Trump and the American people will be forced to endure a significant set of discovery that was authorized without any concrete metric on anything. This has already started to bear out in practice, by the way. This evening, the ACLU gangbang lawyers and the rest of them served on the government, Trump, their written discovery requests. Many of those requests turn entirely on how one understands the word facilitate, right? What they want all of this stuff. And they say facilitate includes it. They say, no, that's the wrong definition. Repeated requests for all past, present, and future actions to, quote, facilitate his return. But of a piece, the uncertain scope of this has begotten a host of other requests. They want all communications between Trump and El Salvador, any payments or detention arrangements. They want all instances where they facilitated the return of an alien anywhere in the world and more. They say this is no way to conduct discovery into a co-equal branch of government. Before a federal court permits this intrusion, it must carefully calibrate its scope, which at minimum requires defining its terms with particularity. You want to talk about who's launching the constitutional crisis. It's these judges, obviously. They're the ones coming in with swords, just hacking at everything Trump's doing. They're not elected. This district court failed to do so. In fact, it disclaimed the enterprise, not even looking at it. That's not palatable, given, and these judges are not supposed to do that, right? That's their oath. It's to uphold the law. And what they're doing is issuing nationwide injunctions for class actions of gangbangers, something that was never contemplated at all, especially given the contemplated discovery here, almost by definition, covers core privileges, attorney-client privilege, executive privileges, and more. All of it involving foreign terrorist organizations when the presidential power is at the apex. This court should order the court below to vacate its order. And first, specifically state what the court believes it requires from the defendants. Again, no discovery is appropriate. But depositions of Trump officials are especially unjustifiable. If nothing else, this court should grant a mandamus to direct the Judge Zenas to set aside that portion of its order. But compelling testimony is justified only in extraordinary instances. That is because the compelled appearance of high-ranking officers implicates the separation of powers, because the duties of these officers should not be interrupted by judicial mans that have a tremendous potential for abuse and harassment, which is exactly what we're seeing. And this has been their game from the beginning. Like, this is nothing new. They tried to throw Trump off the ballot. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to imprison him 4 times. The federal appellate courts routinely have granted mandamus to guard against these undue depositions. Look at all these cases. Okay, sorry, no depots for you. And as these cases lay bare, you cannot properly authorize depositions of high-ranking officials without going through proper steps. Can you find alternative witnesses or find it in other forms and more? But nowhere did Judge Zenas make these findings. Didn't even try. Instead, ordered expedited depositions of a number of high-ranking executive officials without ever explaining why those witnesses were necessary at all, or held information that could only be obtained via a deposition. In its zeal to raise every barrier to expeditious and extensive discovery, to drop every barrier, the district court did not even let the defendants brief the issue, couldn't even file a motion. That's how fair and impartial the judge is. This is a grievous error. Depositions of senior officials are a means of last resort. Judge Zenas' rush and unsubstantiated compulsion of them cannot be allowed to stand. And they continue telling us, Court of Appeals, there is no doubt that Trump and America will suffer irreparable harm unless you do something. There is severe and uncurable damage every moment that the courts commandeer the powers of the executive branch. So too, forcing the executive to divert attention and resources away from other important business. But on the other side of the ledger, if you vacate this injunction, there is no harm to them. They have contended that Abrego faces irreparable harm from being imprisoned in CCOT. But as the United States has reiterated, it would not have removed anybody if it would violate the Convention Against Torture. It's not happening there. And they've also argued that sending him to El Salvador is harmful, in violation of his withholding order, they say. But they don't contest that the membership in a foreign terrorist organization renders one ineligible for withholding. They don't challenge that because it's true. Nor do they contest the United States could reopen his removal proceedings upon his return and remove him back to El Salvador, right? The public interest strongly favors this relief. If there was ever a situation where the court should be especially careful about intruding on the executive, this should be it. This involves a foreign terrorist organization in custody of another land. Nor is the public interest served where the executive is diverted away from other important business to deal with ACLU lawyers. And so, in conclusion, Drew Ensign, writing for the Trump DOJ, tells us this court should stay Judge Zenas' injunction, issue a writ of mandamus, vacate her lower level order, and do it now. That was from Drew Ensign. Now, that got sent over to the Court of Appeals, and they responded accordingly. So this came out from Wilkinson, who I believe is an old Reagan appointee judge, and they dropped this 7-page opinion back, and they're not happy at all. And we're going to see what Trump does with this and whether we get a notice of appeal filed in this case before the show comes to a conclusion. But here's what they wrote. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals responding to Trump's request for a stay, saying upon review of Trump's motion, the court denies the motion and the writ of mandamus, saying the relief that the government is requesting is both extraordinary and premature. What? While we fully respect the executive assertion of the Article 2 powers, we shall not micromanage the efforts, oh my goodness, of a fine district judge attempting to implement the Supreme Court's recent decision. Oh gosh. The efforts of a fine district judge? This is going to be brutal. She's doing a great job. We like her a lot. First of all, she's not trying to implement the Supreme Court decision at all, as the brief we just read articulated. But here is what this judge writes. It is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case, it's not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Oh, gosh. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, there is nothing that could be done. What a whiner. Wow. So wait a minute. So this guy's a resident. Why didn't she say lawful permanent resident right there? Okay, that's a term of art in the law, right? Lawful permanent resident. Okay, why did she leave this out? Or this judge, why did he leave it out? Illegal. He's a resident, but he was illegal. They left that out clearly. And you see what they're doing here? They're trying to water down the language. He's not an illegal alien. He's a resident of our country. Not lawfully. He wasn't a lawful resident, Judge. You should have put that in there if he was. Why did you do that? And by the way, he had plenty of due process. He was already adjudicated, MS-13, and appealed that and lost. The withholding was overridden by operation of the executive branch in Article 2 and the Alien Enemies Act, which provided that power to do it. So the judge and his papusa analysis was overruled by operation of law. You don't like that, you can change that law. But that's how it happened. Now, if the Supreme Court wanted to come out and clarify this after the fact and say there should be more due process or we're going to change the law after the fact, that's fine. But this is done. That is the foundation of our constitutional order. This should be shocking not only to judges, they write, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. Yeah, so liberty for gang members who invaded our country, committed multiple crimes, and beat their spouse. Traffic crimes. And was suspected of human trafficking before the Biden FBI also ignored him and said, let him go. Why did this guy get charged with 2 traffic violations and not show up to court? Why did he have 2, you would argue, felony assaults on his wife that weren't prosecuted? Because he's been operating in the shadows. Now, the government asserts that Abrego is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. That's not your call. Regardless, he's still entitled to due process, which he got. If the government is confident in its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal. Right? And that is an interesting point. It's like, well, they could just bring him back and have the hearing and then just remove him again. But you know what's going to happen is they're going to try to find some other basis or try to invalidate the proclamation and the invocation under the Alien Enemies Act, and then have a whole hearing about this to invalidate the prior findings in court. Like, we don't want that. That's the point. We don't want 15 hearings for every single illegal who's in our country. We got 15, 20 million of them. They didn't afford us due process when they came in at all. They didn't check a box. They didn't sign up for anything. They didn't ask for permission to be here. He just came into the country and started beating American citizens. So requiring that the government prove by a preponderance of the evidence that he's no longer entitled to withholding of removal, right? So that's what they want. They want that hearing on that. But my argument would be, well, did somebody inside the executive branch make that determination? Why does an Article 3 judge have to make that determination under the Alien Enemies Act if FDR and others didn't have that same methodology? Moreover, the government has conceded that he was wrongly or mistakenly deported. Where did that come from? Why then should it not make what was wrong right? Well, where was that? Because we saw that in early filings from the poison pill attorney called Erez Ruvini, who was fired by the DOJ, who came in there. So why didn't you cite that, Judge? Why didn't you footnote that mistakenly? From where? Who said it? The fired DOJ attorney who made the wrong legal argument? The Supreme Court decision remains, as always, our guidepost. Okay, let's see if they follow it. That decision rightly requires the lower courts to give due regard to the deference owed to the executive branch. But that would allow sensitive diplomatic negotiations to be removed from public view. It would recognize, as well as that the facilitation of Abrego and his return leaves the executive branch with options in the execution to which the courts, in accordance with the Supreme Court, should extend genuine deference. That decision struck a balance that does not permit lower courts to leave Article 2 by the wayside. Okay. The Supreme Court's decision does not, however, allow the government to do essentially nothing. They're not. It requires the government to, quote, facilitate Abrego's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. But that's the point, okay? This case was not fully briefed when it hit the Supreme Court. It did not work its way up all the way. It was improperly briefed, and it was an emergency stay because Judge Zenas issued an 1159 mandate that they bring this dude back by midnight. That was obviously not going to happen. So Roberts had to come out and issue an order based on what was in front of him, which was an incomplete case. He was not improperly sent to El Salvador. The executive branch made an internal determination where there's a ton of precedent for doing that before under Article 2 powers that he was deportable. They made that deportation. They overruled the withholding because the law says he's no longer eligible for withholding based on the powers granted to the president by the Congress. This isn't Trump just making it up. So he was not improperly sent to El Salvador. That's the point. The case was handled fine. It requires that steps be taken, as the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear. The government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps, and they did. They did all that. The plain and active meaning of the word cannot be diluted by its constriction, as the government would have it, to a narrow term of art. We are not bound in this context by the definition crafted by an administrative agency or contained in a policy directive. Okay, so they're not going to follow the prior precedent of the agency. They're just going to change the term and expand, facilitate. In other words, we don't have to follow the immigration precedent. We'll just make up and adopt her meaning from the dictionary because it suits us better. Thus, the government's argument that all it must do is remove domestic barriers is not well taken in light of the command to facilitate his release from custody in El Salvador, whatever that means. And again, the question is, what does the Supreme Court think that they can do to do that? What does that mean? Do they think there's a contract? Do they think he was wrongfully detained? Or what is it? Because if there's no keyhole, right, if there's no leverage point, there's nothing that Trump can do. Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual to the one country's prisons that the withholding order forbids, and further, to do so in disregard of an order that the government not so subtly spurns. Saying facilitation does not sanction the abrogation of habeas corpus through, first of all, he could file habeas corpus through the transfer of custody to foreign detention centers in the manner attempted here. Allowing all this would facilitate foreign detention more than it would domestic return. It would reduce the rule of law to lawlessness. All right, these judges, okay, this is all just what you might call dicta coming out of their mouths. The government is obviously frustrated and displeased with the rulings, but let one thing be clear. Court rulings are not above criticism. That's true. Yeah, that's right. That's what we're doing here. Criticism keeps us on our toes and helps us do a better job. Good. We're going to keep it up. Now, court rulings can overstep, and they can further intrude upon the prerogatives of other branches, just like Judge Zenos's did, according to SCOTUS. Courts thus speak with the knowledge of their imperfections and more. But energy in the executive is to be respected, said Alexander Hamilton. It can rescue the government from its lassitude and recalibrate imbalances, but the knowledge of the executive is a perishable quality, and the differences don't end here. All right, so the executive possesses enormous power, but if today they claim the right to deport without due process, and he got due process, in disregard of court orders, what assurance will there be tomorrow that it will not deport American citizens? There it is. What a joke. And disclaim responsibility to bring them home. And are they citing Trump? Trump doubles down on sending American criminals, which I would oppose vehemently, right? I would totally oppose that. But that's not what's happened here. But this is the slippery slope argument. Well, we allow this to happen for an El Salvadorian citizen who is here illegally, who was ordered to be removed from the country, who is now a member of an MS-13 terroristic gang. If that happens to him, they might come get you, America. All right. And what assurance shall there be that they're not going to train its discretion upon its political enemies? Well, I don't know. I mean, if they think that that's what Trump is doing, I mean, Adam Schiff is pretty much a terrorist. So the threat, even if it's not the actuality, could always be present. And so now we're freaked. Today, both the United States and El Salvador claim responsibility to return this dude. He is illegal. We are told that neither government has the power to act. Well, no, I think that El Salvador could release him, but they're not going to. The result would be to leave matters generally and to leave wife-beater Garcia specifically in an interminable limbo without recourse of any court. He can ask his own government, his own country, for a remedy. The basic differences between the branches mandate a serious effort in mutual respect. Well, we're not getting any of that in Article 2. The respect that courts must accord the executive must be reciprocated. Give me a break. You guys have been trashing everything Trump has been doing since he came into office. Too often today, this has not been the case, whatever. So in this atmosphere, we're reminded of President Eisenhower's sage example. Putting aside his personal opinions, he honored his inescapable duty to enforce the Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education. Oh, gosh. So they're now comparing Brown versus Board of Education and desegregation to bringing terrorists back to America. That's what these whack job judges are doing, okay? Desegregation in America. Trump should act like Eisenhower and desegregate terrorists from America. Bring the terrorists back and let's all just live in one happy family, okay? Addressed by the president. What a psycho. This great man expressed his unflagging belief that you should set aside what you're doing. Says now the branches come too close to grinding irrevocably against one another. This is a weird opinion. It's like, Judge, just start a blog, okay? Just write a blog if you want to talk about this. This is a losing proposition. The judiciary will lose much from the constant intimations of its illegitimacy, which you're losing. You're losing right now. You're contributing to that. Don't you understand what you're doing? The executive will lose much from a public perception of its lawlessness and its attendant contagions. I don't think so. It's lawless to have illegals ransacking our country, just flouting around everything. The executive may succeed for a time in weakening the courts, but over a time, history will script the tragic gap between what was and all that might have been, and law in time will sign its epitaph. This is really weird. It is, as we noted, like he's like writing the obituary for the institution of law, which he's a part of killing. All too possible to see this incipient crisis. We yet cling to the hope that it is not naive to believe that our good brethren in the executive branch perceive the rule of law as vital to the American ethos. This is pathetic. I'm sure Andrew Weissman is loving this. He's like, oh gosh, I can't wait to read this over a glass of wine tonight. The case presents their unique chance to vindicate that value and to summon the best that is within us while there is still time. So bring these terrorists back. You can reunite America. Says Judge Wilkinson. Oh gosh, the MSNBC people are going to go nuts. Somebody better check on Judge Ludwig. He's probably enjoying this way too much for his own good. All right, so that happened. Of course, we're waiting to see if Trump appeals any of that. I'm sure that he will. So we're going to be SCOTUS bound. But a lot of other people are really doubling down on this. It's weird to see Pocahontas sending so much war paint around on MSNBC. Here's what that sounded like. Hang on a second. We have a disconnected tube. Oh no, let's listen.
We do not disappear people in the United States, because here's the thing.
Unless you're a January 6er in the middle of the night, or a parent who showed up at a school protest to talk about your kids having their genitals mutilated, or if you were a pro-lifer or something, then Christopher Wray's FBI would come in and just swoop you out from your bed. Or if you're somebody like Gonzalo Lira, who's detained overseas, or somebody who was left behind in Afghanistan, nobody really cared about any of those people. But when it's a terrorist, suddenly Elizabeth Warren is popping off.
If they can disappear Mr. Abrego Garcia, then they can disappear you. It's about
they're coming for you. They're going to come get you.
Disappearing people, but it's also about obeying court orders. But now what we've got is truly a man who threatens it, a spineless bunch of Republicans in the House and Senate who help it along. And the American people saying, wait a minute, I think this is the moment we're going to have to start fighting back for our...
Amazing. I hope they do. I really hope they do. So they can take this Kilmar case and run with it. Now, the Kilmar case, the reason why they're latching onto this is because of that little, error situation that they got poison pilled into that. And then we see, even in this filing, where the executive branch will say, well, we didn't follow the formal process with the other courts and actually try to cancel the withholding. But I'd like to see more from them saying why the process that they did provide to him was perfectly valid, why it was consistent with how other presidents executed it. And maybe we'll see more of that once this hits the Supreme Court, and they can explain why he was afforded all the process that he needs. And just set a standard. Say, this is what we're doing. This is how the process is going to be. We've got a panel of people in the executive branch who are administrative judges who review these claims. 2 people. They sit there. They look at them. Nope. Gone. And kind of what they're getting due process. The Democrats want the opposite. They want full trials. They want assigned attorneys. They want multiple hearings and more. So they brought the wife out, who, I don't know, how she's feeling, probably still recovering from a couple of those domestic violence incidences. You know how those can be very traumatic and can sometimes cause people to not be in their right minds. But here is a little bit of what she sounded like.
Parents, and I stand before you filled with spirit that refuses to bring down. I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive.
Fighting back? Or, fighting for your husband? Fighting back against your husband? Got it.
Kilmar, if you can hear me,
you can.
Stay strong. God hasn't forgotten about you. Our children are asking, when would you come home?
Okay, so there's a question about that children thing. And of course, we'll come back on that one. But that's what she's out saying. So they dragged her out, and she's going to petition to have her illegal alien husband, so-called, come back into the country. Now, this guy was also out, and he's saying they're going to keep up on this. This was the senator called Chris Van Hollen, a.k.a. MS-13 senator. He was out saying they're going to just keep this train on the tracks. They love how this is working.
So I will keep at this, but I can assure you that while I may be the first senator and first member of the United States Congress to come here to El Salvador in this case, I certainly will not be the last. There'll be many more coming.
All right, so they're putting all eggs in this basket. So Democrat foreign terrorists who are illegally in our country, who were deported, they love the dude. Even Hillary Clinton says, before the election, I warned that there is no safe haven under authoritarianism. If they can ship Kilmar Abrego to a foreign prison accused of no crime with no trial, see what I'm saying with this trial crap? He was in the country illegally. Like, why does he need a trial? Hillary knows what she's doing. They're trying to conflate all of this. Like, you can only deport illegals if they are convicted of a crime in America. Like, that's it. That's not the law. That's not how that works at all. They can do it to anyone. So be careful out there, Grandma. You might go too. Americans of conscience must stand up against this now. And I don't know if this was before or after the discovery that he's a domestic abuser, allegedly, according to his own so-called wife. But Hillary knows a little bit about that too, so maybe shouldn't care. Now, we also saw a lot of people are not paying on the Democrat side attention to the people who've been victimized by these people. They'd rather go fight for their constituency, which is apparently, I guess, the question, of course, is why are they fighting so hard for this constituency? You probably saw in the wife's image, there were people back there with the CASA on there, right? CASA, this big nonprofit, probably got millions of dollars from Lord knows where, fighting for the illegal immigration policies that have gotten our country where it's at. They pay attention to their constituents, not the actual Americans who live in their states. Here is the angel mom speaking out on illegal immigration, Patty Morin.
I know the senator had to see it. So did he reach out after?
No. I've heard no response from any Democrats. I've received some threatening phone calls, but I've received no response from anybody. They're ignoring it. It's kind of like, a little toddler. If I don't look at you, you can't see me. Or if I don't look at that, I didn't do that kind of thing. They're ignoring it.
I know
maybe you should break into the country and beat some people, and then they'll start paying more attention to you. So really a shocking thing that's what their party is standing up for, not even standing up for Americans who've had their daughters murdered. But we also saw even Mayor Eric Adams was out, and Eric Adams was asked about this from Dana Bash, asked him specifically, what do you think about this? Do you think that Abrego Garcia should be dragged back to America? Here's what the mayor said.
Are you openly working with the Trump administration? I mean, as you work with them on these issues, are you comfortable with the way in which they are rounding up and deporting people, especially in the case of
so dramatic,
what is going on right now with a federal judge ordering the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and the administration is refusing?
Well, one thing I'm clear on is that I'm not a hypocrite. I've been very clear on my policies. And if we look at the wording and the communications I stated of Trump, President Trump being elected, it's the same. There's consistency. And what I am clear on, we must have federal immigration policies. When you allow an open border, and you allow anyone to come through, you have a $7.5 billion price tag on our cities. El Paso shouldn't be going through this. Chicago shouldn't be going through this. New York shouldn't be going through this. I don't control immigration.
I hear you. And you've been really clear on that it's a federal issue. But you're also a lifelong law enforcement official. You have to have an opinion, never mind the mayor of New York City.
Yes, and as a lifelong law enforcement person that from the 84 talked about public safety as a prerequisite to prosperity, I stay with that. Our federal government must deal with the immigration issue, and it should not be placed on cities. And the Constitution clearly lays out the federal government will handle immigration. And we can't say based on who's the president, let's be consistent. And the hypocrisy is that what I've raised during the previous administration, I would say again now, the federal government on all levels must deal with the immigration crisis.
Just to put a button on it, because the previous administration and this administration, as you have laid out, they're dealing with this in a different way. Just to be clear, you are, yes or no, you're okay with the way that the Trump administration is handling the immigration situation in New York City and beyond right now?
What I said over and over again, I'm going to continue. The federal government, that's not only the president, Congress, everyone must focus on what we've been doing with immigration in our country. Here in the city, we have a large number of immigrants that participate every day in the quality of life of this city. The mayors should not have to do this. That includes the Chicago mayor, the Denver mayor, the Houston mayor.
I'm not asking if you have to do it. I'm asking if the way the federal government is doing it makes you comfortable or not.
Yeah, he's fine.
I want to be consistent. As I said, you trying to get a yes or no answer to something that I've been consistent on. Federal government must deal with immigration.
And they are. Thank you, Dana, for trying to get him to say something that he's not going to say, because we need this problem solved. Now, Caroline Levitt also said, this is why the American people don't trust the legacy media. Said the Wall Street Journal claims the Trump administration sought to portray deported illegal alien terrorist Kilmar wife-beater Abrego Garcia as violent. No, we didn't try to portray him as that. His own wife portrayed him as violent when she filed an order of protection against him for viciously beating her, which we'll get to coming up soon. But as we round out this segment, here is what Tom Homan said when we learned more about Kilmar, the wife beater.
You mean Chris Van Hollen, the guy that didn't want to sign the Laken Riley Act that protects American citizens against illegal alien criminal gang members? Who instead of protecting Americans, his constituents, his taxpayers, he goes to El Salvador and defends an illegal alien with a deportation order that's a member of MS-13 that's been designated a terrorist organization by President Trump. That's where he went to defend it. It's just disgusting. The same senator who state yesterday released an illegal alien charged with murder, refused the ICE detainer, hit the street. So rather than protecting his community, protecting the residents of Maryland, he goes to El Salvador to coddle an MS-13 gang member terrorist. It's ridiculous. And also, wow. I talked to an MS-13 expert today who also showed me pictures of his hand. Well, he says absolutely the tattoo on one of his hands was absolutely an MS-13 gang tattoo. Nothing questionable about it. 2 judges said he's an MS-13 member. ICE says he's an MS-13 member. Intelligence community says he's an MS-13 member. El Salvador says he's an MS-13 member. So, it's just ridiculous. And as far as all the people who are speaking out against us, I cannot believe for a minute there's that many stupid people in the world. Now, AOC, on the smart meter, she's a 0. We'll give them that. But I can't believe these people really believe what they're saying. They got to be just pushing a narrative for political reasons. They can't be that dumb to think that that this person is an MS-13 gang member and a public safety threat.
Yeah, it's much more than that. It's not about Kilmar. It's not about an innocent man who's being deported and they're fighting for the cause of justice any more than they've ever been for anything that they claim to be for, like democracy or clean planet or anything, right? They just lie about everything. So what he is explaining is that the Democrats are trying to use this as a wedge issue to kind of stop the entire immigration deportation process writ large. Okay. This causes an injunction that goes nationwide and all of the policies get rolled back. But that's not going to happen. We know that President Trump and the DOJ are going to continue to appeal this puppy up, and we'll see where it goes next. But as it stands today, the Court of Appeals has said that discovery can continue, and we'll be here to continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. We got more business to attend to, and let's talk about what's happening here. The Kilmar wife-beater Abrego Garcia case gets worse, and the Maryland man hoax crumbles. This is a behind-the-scenes look at what happened at one of those domestic violence order of protection proceedings that occurred when Jennifer Vasquez, the wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this person right here, when she went into court and filed for an order of protection. Now, we talked about it yesterday. Our friend Andy NGO shared some details explaining that he discovered 2 cases where Kilmar Abrego Garcia was in domestic violence cases brought by his so-called wife, Jennifer Vasquez, against him. You see this one from 2020, this one from 2021, both pretty shocking because they told us this guy is an excellent father, always been there for our children and all sorts of things. Well, we learned more that the order of protection was filed, and we also read through the police report showing that there's a lot of gang-related activity, including a report and a gang field interview sheet that identified 3 people as being members of a gang that he was palling around with. One of the guys was not, so they let him go. But Kilmar was marked. In addition to all of that, we then got Fox News and our friend Bill Malugin posting the juicy details behind the order of protection and big questions about this. Why wasn't this brought forward in any of the proceedings? Okay, what happened was, in fact, that Abrego Garcia's lawyers, many of them ACLU adjacent folks or CASA adjacent folks or union adjacent folks, all came in and told us this guy was like an innocent, loving father, said no criminal history, left out all of this stuff that might be relevant to a judge who's making a decision about it. Left it out intentionally because they're dishonest people. But here is what we actually learned. So the wife came in and filed this. Looks like it was at Prince George County Court, Upper Marlboro, and submitted this May 5th, 2021 with her signature right there. Says, all right, here's a petition for a protection order. Says, I told him, Abrego Kilmar, to give me his card to pay. He got angry, start insulting me. I only put a few of gas. Once leaving there, he pulled out like crazy. I started recording because I was scared of the way he was driving and because our 1-year-old was in the back seat. In the recording, you can hear him yelling, insulting me, driving extremely fast. On May 4th, 2021, she says, I was watching on my laptop and he yelled, "Turn it off!" I told him I wasn't sleepy yet. And he got angry and he reached over and he threw my laptop on the floor. And the baby started to cry because he was putting pressure on him. And my immediate reaction was to push him off of us. And then he punched, scratched me on my left eye, leaving me bleeding. That same day at 2 p.m., he came home to say he was going out with a friend. And I told him I needed to go pick up some orders at BJ's. And he got angry and started yelling again to the point that he ripped my shorts and shirt off. And I ran to the bathroom and he ran behind me, grabbed me by my arm. I have marks on my left arm as well. He then left, came home at 12 p.m. I left my car parked in the neighborhood, and in the morning, I asked him for the key and said he wasn't going to give it to me because he had things to do. I order Uber to leave with my kids because scared of him. Minutes later, he called that our car wasn't there anymore. At this point, I am afraid to be close to him. I have multiple photos and videos of how violent he can be and all the bruises he has left me. The children's with me. Wow. Wow. And this is who the Democrats are fighting for, going down there to get him out of custody. They want him back in our country. Multiple photos and pictures. I wonder if those are part of the court record anywhere. That doesn't sound like a loving husband, loving father, loving kid, but loving to the children. In fact, some of those things might be actual crimes, right? I mean, in very serious crimes. Like this driving stuff with a kid in the car, you could call that reckless driving, which would be in Arizona a misdemeanor, or you could call it reckless endangerment if you got a kid in the car, which could be a felony. And that could get real bad pretty quickly. Now, she doesn't want to call the police, right? She doesn't. And by the way, all of these physical altercations, those are all assaults. Bleeding, permanent injury, stuff like that, those are felonies. So these could all be crimes. She could have called the police and reported all of these. She didn't because he's illegal. And if that would have happened, there would have been a problem. So every time they come back and they're like, he hasn't been charged with a crime. Yeah, because he's committing crimes and nobody's reporting them. That's the point. Should be crimes. There's evidence of multiple crimes here. If she would have called the cops that time that happened, he would have been arrested instantly, obviously. Instantly. So don't let that stupid little phrase that they like to drag out. He's never been convicted of anything. His wife should have called twice because she got violently attacked by him, according to her own words. Only allegations. But no wonder he didn't want to interface with the law. No wonder when he got those traffic tickets and those cops didn't arrest him immediately like they should have and deported him back then. Every time he missed his traffic ticket case, should have rounded him up and gone. Because then this happens. And now this woman I don't know what her situation is, man. She's got 3 kids. She's got all this pressure coming down upon her from CASA and all the things. You know, it's hard to dunk on her too much. She seems like she has no idea what the hell's going on, quite frankly, and is just a useful pawn at the moment. But she was attacked by this dude. And senators, and I hope people spread this far and wide, right? Because they use this a lot. They say, he's never been convicted of any crime. He should have. He should be in jail, obviously, for beating women. This was just one incident. Don't know how the other one was. And she didn't file, orders of protections for all of the other beatings that have occurred. I have multiple photos and videos of how violent he can be and all the bruises he has left me. Okay, probably not just from this one incident, probably from many other incidents where he's beating the hell out of her. So that's what they're throwing all their eggs in on. Wild scene. Here's what Jennifer wrote on page 2, said, the person I want protected is me. There are additional persons living at the home. Here's another incident. Okay, prior injuries. Look, December 2019. Like she didn't file anything. And what happens a lot in these orders of protections is it's like it has to be within a year. Like, you can only, when was the injury? Was it 5 years ago? Okay, well, I'm not going to issue an order for that. But they want to know about prior history. So he's got a bunch of it. December 2019, November 2020, he hit me with his work boot. Yeah, just like a chakla, right? Is that what they call it? August 2020, hit me in the eye, leaving me with a purple eye, black eye, right to the face, just like backhand Doug Emhoff. Multiple rounds. I want the court to order the respondent to not talk to me, Jennifer Vasquez, not to go to the residence called Temple Hills MD, where the residence is, right? Don't go to her place of work. Don't go to her business. Don't try to contact or harass. Order protection granted. So what an amazing just immigrant who's coming to America to just be a part of the American dream and raise a family here. Rob, you bigot. Yeah, that's great. That's what we want more of in our country. We're really glad to see that there are senators going down there to drag his butt back to America. Well done. So in addition to that, we can see that there's another report that got dropped from the Tennessee Star, and they're telling us, wow, go figure, that Biden's FBI ordered the Tennessee Highway Patrol to release this dude after he was detained, after he was in those incidents beating his wife in 2022 in a traffic stop on suspicion of human trafficking. Wow. Human trafficking too, in addition to beating his wife and hanging out at Home Depots with gang members. The Tennessee Star learned on Wednesday that Kilmar wife beater Garcia, an alleged member of a Central American gang who was deported under Trump, was suspected of being engaged in human trafficking by the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Incredible. Officers detained him on December 2022, leading the THP to contact the FBI for guidance. So Tennessee stops the dude. Then they call the FBI, saying within 2 hours, the FBI ultimately requested that the THP release Garcia and the passengers in his vehicle. Christopher Wray's like, oh, it's an illegal MS-13 gang member? That's cool. Well, he's not a J6er, right? Was he there at the Capitol? No, he wasn't. All right. Does he have any strong opinions on abortion? No. All right. Does he plan to go to any school meetings to protest on behalf of kids or anything like that? No. Okay, you can let him go. That's fine. Within 2 hours, the FBI ultimately requested that they be released, and they let him go. The Star learned from, there better be records about this, like something better be called, documented, something. The Star learned from sources familiar with the incident that Abrego Garcia was stopped for an unknown reason on December 6, 2022, and that Tennessee officers responsible for the stop discovered he was transporting 7 passengers with 8 people inside the vehicle. There was a 2-hour traffic stop. They determined that he was operating the vehicle without a driver's license and began searching for information on him. One source told the Star that they ultimately discovered that Abrego Garcia was on a terrorist watch list, but they could not locate him on a deportation list. Another source told the Star that Tennessee did not discover Abrego on a terrorist watch list, but that another one of the 7 passengers may have been on a terror watch list. Okay, so some incongruities there. Now, the Tennessee said that they called FBI, which was then led by Wray, and the FBI instructed them, photograph them and document the contents of the vehicle. One of the photographs were captured. This source told the Star that the FBI requested that they release. Once the photographs were done, let him go. They let him go. The Star also learned that circumstances of the stop made the officer responsible for the stop, but that Abrego and his passengers were released at the request of the FBI. He's like, I gave up jurisdiction. Information about this incident, including the identity of the THP officer, the officer's badge number, and the CAD, the computer-aided dispatch report, code assigned to the incident, are all known to the Star. So there is a record, which is currently withholding this information. So they got it. Sources familiar with the computer dispatch of the incident told the Star that the officer who filed the report confirmed the 7 individuals in the van were being transported to Texas from Texas to Maryland by Garcia. I wonder what that's about. Why is he bringing 7 people from Texas to Maryland? Anyone have any thoughts on that? You think they were just going to have some barbecue, some Texas barbecue down there? Get them some brisket down in Texas? Notably, it is a misdemeanor, and they were just traveling around, just going back to Maryland. They just had a hankering. Wanted to go and do a little, rodeo. Now, notably, it is a misdemeanor offense in the state of Texas to operate a motor vehicle without a driver's license. Anyone convicted of that can go to 6 months in jail. The officer who detained Garcia temporarily is well respected within the Tennessee Highway Department, has served on a special interdiction team, and is based in a district located between Nashville and Knoxville. In response to Wednesday's press inquiries, Tennessee and Homeland both confirmed that they got the communication and that they would send responses soon. A comment request by the Star to the FBI was not answered. The Star also contacted Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, kind of like the state, feds, as the chief authority over human trafficking, to determine whether he was released due to a TBI investigation. Still waiting on answers there. Homeland also waiting on answers. He was granted a withholding of removal order. He was deported. Bukele said more. So Bukele said, we're not fond of releasing terrorists into our country, and so he's not getting out. So there is so much more on this dude that is going to be coming out, and we're looking forward to exposing that here. For some reason, the Democrats continue to love the dude. Now, Andy, I know his name is No, but we call him Andy NGO, and I say that lovingly, and we love Andy here. But Andy NGO is here. Says Jennifer Vasquez Sura says the wife of deported El Salvadorian Kilmar Abrego Garcia claims to the media and fundraising campaign that Mr. Garcia is an amazing husband and father, but they don't have 3 kids together. Mr. Garcia is the father of the youngest child only, and other children have a father named Edwin Trejo Ramos, and he attempted, the other dad, desperately to get his kids back in 2018. Andy says, since I revealed the court history of documented alleged serial abusive violent behavior by Garcia and his wife, I've looked further into the records in Maryland. Mr. Ramos, the father of the other children, petitioned the court for emergency custody, but the case was dismissed because of lack of jurisdiction, likely because Vasquez was not served with the claim. Nothing was refiled. So she's got another baby daddy. Ms. Vasquez Sura claims Mr. Garcia is a great husband, whilst hundreds of thousands of dollars pour into the campaign, and Democrats are saying, bring this dude back so he can beat his wife again. And here was another document from Andy. Yeah, okay, so here's the case in the claim against Jennifer to get those other kids back, probably because that dad doesn't want them involved in MS-13, Can understand that. So that's not good. So we also saw some very interesting posts here from our friend Will Chamberlain. He says, here's another tell-all story about what's really going on here and how Kilmar's lawyers are playing loose with the rules. He says, I want to explain what happened with this other attorney here called this guy. He says, this guy's lawyer is called Simon Sandoval Moschenberg. And it's saying this guy is essentially duping the courts. Here's what he breaks down. By the way, follow Will. He's reposted at the top of our timeline. Says, today, Bondi released the Gangfield interview sheet. That was yesterday. We read through it yesterday. It says the police officer says that when Garcia was arrested, he was hanging out with multiple MS-13 members. We read it yesterday. He was wearing apparel associated with them. And that a confidential source said, yep, that's him. But when Judge Thacker wrote her concurring opinion on the decision, she was extremely dismissive of that. She said the evidence was thin, to say the least. Made no mention of the fact that Garcia was detained hanging out with MS-13 or more. Right? Why was that omitted? He says, let's take a look at her footnotes. They say, even then, the government's evidence of any connection between Obrego was thin. The claim was based on Obrego wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, no, and a vague uncorroborated allegation about a Western clique. But her first footnote points to another filing from the lawyer or from the district court, and that opinion by Zinnis, right? So you see how this works, right? There's a poison pill somewhere, and everybody latches onto that and takes it and exploits that. So the Court of Appeals was latching onto something Zinnis wrote. Zinnis also characterizes the evidence as weak. It's just a bull's hat. But there was no mention from her of the fact that he was arrested with 2 MS-13 members. Just forgot about it. Zinnis cited another document in her document. Okay, so now look, like this is what I'm talking about. This dude's like Rain Man connecting all the documents. He says, look, ECF number 31 is what she cited, but that's citing the very document that she was writing. So it's circular. So the clerk made an error, which means we don't know where the judge got this, right? And that's what we ask all the time. Like even in this Court of Appeals decision that we just read, the judge is saying things, making claims without citing your sources. So this Chicago Bulls thing, right? That's not what it ever was. Where'd you get it from, Judge? ECF number 31, that's the electronic court filing. So that's like what file it was on the docket. So citing 31, that's that document. So you can't circularly cite your own rules. Says, so then Thacker's second footnote points to the addendum to the motion, which is the complaint that was written by the lawyer. So now things become clear, right? The reason that Zinnis and Thacker underplayed MS-13 evidence is because Sandoval Moschenberg, the lawyer, did so. He's the only lawyer on the brief. No one else is responsible for it. Very interesting here. Pretty clear he knew about that, but he didn't put the report in the record. He chose to underplay the cop's statement. And so as a result, everybody got blindsided, right? Judge Zinnis, Fourth Circuit, everybody on this case, they realize as they're all having a second thought about this case, and they're not going to admit it, but they are. They're going, oh, dang it. He's not this loving, innocent person. And there's a question about this lawyer, right? Duping them. He didn't put it in the report. They got blindsided. Judges don't like that. Yeah, they like to be able to rely on the lawyers litigating in front of them to cut square corners. That didn't happen here. So the lesson for them and the media, you can't take their words as gospel, right? They're dressing up their clients. Complaints are at evidence. Really dumb to underplay this stuff. So it's a good thread from our friend Will. And he said he also wants to point this out. One of the key parts of the gang file was the assertion of a confidential informant and this Western clique thing. He had a rank, he had moniker. That's pretty definitive, right? Garcia, he had a nickname. He had Chiqueo. He had a moniker of Chele. Like he was in it. So how did Sandoval deal with that? Well, he asserted without equivocation that Western's clique operates in New York, Brentwood, Long Island. And he says he's never even been to New York. And they both cite to that, right? They say, oh, well, they're in New York. But given how fast and loose he was with the other rules, he says when you search Western clique on the DOJ website, all that comes up is one particular MS-13 double murder. But there's no claim by the DOJ here that the Western clique operates only in Long Island. It's just that there were some people who were murdered in Long Island. But in the course of Will's research, I tracked down a major RICO indictment of MS-13 members from the United States in the District of Columbia. So they're also in DC. Oh, and guess what? As of at least 2011, the Western clique is one of the 6 major MS-13 cliques operating in the DC metro area from other criminal charges. This was also echoed in Insight Crime, where the Western Locos clique is in Maryland. So do you think it's conceivable that Obrego Garcia, our Maryland father, was a member of the Maryland-based clique? Right. So the lawyer's like, Western clique, that's only in New York. No, it's not true. Western Locos clique is in Maryland, right? Little dishonest. If I were the lawyer, I would be profusely apologizing to the court next time I show up, because They were very aggressive with this, right? These lawyers. Well, the cop was fired and all this stuff, and like all these claims that everything is explainable. It's not. The dude was investigated for human trafficking, bringing some amigos out from Texas up into Maryland. How convenient was that? Stopped and let go by the very Biden administration, who you would expect to let them go because they're facilitating the invasion. And now the evidence, including the wife beating, is all coming clear. And these judges got some serious egg on their face right now. Here's what Pam Bondi said about this last night.
I want to put up on the screen a timeline because there seems to be, in the media especially, a narrative that is completely and totally and utterly false regarding, quote, Mr. Garcia. And not one but two courts actually said he was an MS-13 gang member and identified him as such. Can you please explain what you know about him?
Yeah, Sean, factually, this is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13. And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said, not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now, here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice, getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her. She talked about her child in the petition for an injunction for safety. Ultimately, she didn't show up for court. That's your typical domestic violence victim. But this victim was even braver because she was married to one of the top MS-13 members who was illegally in our country and a terrorist. So now
Can you explain?
He gets.
Oh, go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry, Pam.
Sean.
Finish. No. You finish.
So, Sean, he, under Donald Trump's incredible plan to get these alien enemies, these terrorists out of our country, he is deported. He is deported back to where he came from, El Salvador. He is sitting in a prison, and every American should be thanking President Trump tonight.
We do.
And every
Thank you, Mr.
liberal
President.
journalist who has called him a Maryland man and saying he was rightfully in this country should be apologizing tonight to President Trump.
Yeah, and it's pretty indicative of who they are as an ideology, on how they're just spring-loaded. They hate Trump so much that they call him somebody who's abusing a terrorist who wasn't abused at all. He just got deported out of our country. They just hate the man so much they can't even see what the outcome of that action was. They have to oppose him no matter what. And the idea that they would align themselves with foreign invaders and terrorists and drug traffickers, human traffickers, and more over the American constituencies that they serve is shocking, but that's who they are. Hopefully they keep it up. All right, so we've got one more update on the day, my friends, and this one involves Judge Boasberg. And here is the latest on this one. It's getting wild over here. Judge Boasberg continues to be very Judge Boasberg. You can see we're getting new orders from him, even though he has no jurisdiction over this case. The Supreme Court already came down and issued their opinion to Boasberg. And they said, hey, Judge, pretty clear. A couple things are happening. We are granting Trump's application. This is from SCOTUS, and we're vacating your TROs, okay? You have no power here because habeas and core habeas claims must be brought in the jurisdiction where they're being held. For core habeas petitions, jurisdiction lies only in one district, the district of the confinement. The detainees in this case are in Texas, so venue is improper in DC. So the government is going to win, and you got to send this to Texas, saying the application, Judge Boasberg, the application to vacate your orders are granted. The minute orders granting the TROs from Judge Boasberg and the extension are vacated. Okay, gone. You don't have venue. You don't have jurisdiction over this claim. These are habeas claims. They go to Texas. We know that. So what happened was the ACLU gangbanger lawyers who were representing, in this case, alleged Tren de Aragua gangbangers who are proceeding pseudo-anonymously and are certified as a class now, which by federal courts, saying, all right, well, since Judge Boasberg is doing whatever he wants, we might as well just ask for whatever we want. Here's what the illegal lawyers are saying, following the Supreme Court's ruling vacating the TROs, so they admit, okay, the orders are vacated, Judge Boasberg directed us to file a notice saying, do we still have a basis to proceed on this motion? And if so, propose a schedule. And the court is just going to retain jurisdiction, right? The court is just going to keep the case to handle these things. So while the court is keeping these cases, and remember earlier we read that this court held Trump in contempt in an insane decision because he has no jurisdiction over the case, and his injunction was illegal and vacated because he didn't have jurisdiction. He just held Trump in contempt anyways. And so they filed this saying, well, okay, if you're going to keep the contempt proceeding, then we want the following. While you're keeping the contempt proceeding, we, the ACLU and the gangbanger lawyers, are seeking another restraining order. The Supreme Court just literally vacated the other ones, that directs the government to provide 30 days notice before seeking to remove any class member under the AEA. We're living in bizarro land, my friends. And to serve that order on the class and undersigned counsel. The relief is urgent. The government has already indicated that notwithstanding the Supreme Court's ruling that notice must be sufficient to allow them to seek review, it may provide designated individuals with as little as 24 hours notice. They say that's not enough time. They're going to be out of here. So we need more here. They also say, remember, they had a habeas claim originally, and then Judge Boasberg told them to get rid of it. Said, we're going to amend our complaint. We're going to reinstate our habeas claim. We're going to seek relief for all the Trens who were removed to El Salvador. And we want a slightly longer schedule for litigating habeas. Okay, so this judge has no power. His orders were vacated. Now they're asking to add and expand their underlying claims to add in habeas. We're going to, like literally, we're going to amend our complaint. Even though they're confined in Texas and habeas is in Texas, the Supreme Court literally just said that. So they're going to ask you now because we want this for the class. We think habeas for an individual is in Texas, but habeas for a class is with you. And the Supreme Court didn't say it wasn't, so we're asking for that. So the TRO regarding the class now, they say in response to indications the government may begin removing people without adequate notice, we want 30 days of notice now. And they say 5 people have filed class habeas petitions. And there's a bunch of other districts where this is ultimately happening. And so we ask you to exercise your jurisdiction over the class. Okay? Transfer what the Supreme Court said you don't have jurisdiction over into something you do have jurisdiction over. It wasn't a class. It was a class, but didn't have jurisdiction over that. They should have gone to Texas. And so just call it a class. It's such a scam. Telling us that is because that our notice claims lie outside of habeas. Okay, now this is just a lawsuit about notice. It's not about removal. And so because it's not about removal, it's not exactly habeas. And so you can take power over it. Saying the Supreme Court's ruling did not require notice claims be brought in habeas. To the contrary, it said we need notice. And so since they said you have to give them notice, this is now a notice lawsuit. And some people might not be able to raise a notice claim in habeas. And so that's why we're asking you to do all of this. So they write a bunch of stuff. And in summation, they write, without proper notice, most class members will be removed. They won't be able to seek habeas. And so we want you to give them a bunch of time to do that. Signed here by the ACLU gangbanger lawyers who love these people. And I think that these were the trans de Aragua cases. So some of these gangbangers were trans, which is why they're so excited about this, because anything for the trans at the ACLU organization. So that's what happened with Judge Boasberg. They submitted that and the judge granted it. Absolutely insane. He said, all right, well, the government shall file any opposition to that, which is like he's entertaining this. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So why don't you guys respond to that by the 19th? And the party shall appear for a hearing. You shall amend your complaint. You can file your opposition to this. And so this just continues on, right? The judge just allows this to continue on as this case continues to spiral out of control. Judge Boasberg has no power at all, but he is exercising it. FBI Director Kash Patel says, well, we don't care. We're still rounding people up and getting rid of them. He says, we got 6,000 subjects detained and arrested here. What's up, Kash? Says we got 310 Tren de Aragua gang members, 136 MS-13 gang members. We have much more to do, but we're working hard on it right now. And there was a question about the impeachment proceedings that were brought against this judge, Judge Boasberg. We recall that Representative Brandon Gill introduced articles of impeachment back on March 18, 2025. Hasn't been much activity since that time, but we did read through it and we saw what it looked like and what it included. And there was a bunch of juicy stuff in here about this judge's misconduct and calling him guilty of high crimes of misdemeanors and saying he's somebody who should be removed because he is now asking and interfering with unreviewable discretionary actions that were conducted by the president. And in doing so, he is breaking the separation of powers, violating his constitutional oaths, and committing a high crime and misdemeanor. But while all this is happening, while these lefty judges and the ACLU, Trans de Aragua, gangbang lawyers, and the rest of them are so excited about representing foreign terrorists, the American people really know what's going on. And we're grateful that you're sharing this show and this channel and the documents that we share, the documents that Andy Ngo are sharing, all of them, I think, illustrate the truth of what's happening. And the more truth people can see and feel and understand, the more these numbers will go in our favor, and the hole the Democrats are digging will continue to get deeper by the day.
Why is Trump focusing on immigration? Let me just tell you, this is where Trump wants to focus. Pretty please, with a cherry on top. Why is that? Look at Trump's net approval rating on immigration. Compare where we are now, compare where we were at this point in his first term. In his first term, he was underwater at minus 12 points. Look at where he is today. He's actually above water. This is one of his strongest issues at plus 1 point. And more than that on the net approval for him on this issue has stayed steady in the positive. This is an area where Donald Trump wants to focus, because the bottom line is this is an area in which the American people, at least the bare majority of them, seem to like what he's doing.
Yep.
You've shown the impact on how people feel about his handling of the economy and what he's been doing. So let's stay here with this. Compare where he is on immigration to where Biden was. We know that this was why he leaned it in.
Yeah, and it's interesting the Democrats aren't spending more time on the economy or on the stock market, right? They're lapping up foreign terrorists over other issues that might be more of a vulnerability for Trump and the administration.
Immigration so much.
Yes, this is a big reason why. So take a look here. This is on immigration. What track are we on? The right track or the wrong track? Look in December. Look at the percentage who said we were on the wrong track. 62% of Americans when Joe Biden was in office, compared to just 14% who said that we were on the right track. Flash forward to April. Well, hello. 45% say we're on the right track compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track. So in a big switcheroo from where we were back in January, the plurality of Americans say that the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy. Back in December when Joe Biden was president, the vast majority said that we were on the wrong track. Again, this points out that on the whole, Americans like where we're going on immigration policy under Donald Trump, which is very different from where we were under Joe Biden.
And comparing the kind of then and now and the progression over time, what about on the specific issue of deportations? I mean, compare it maybe today Trump to first-term Trump.
Yeah, this I think is the big change. You know, we were talking about changes in policy and how Americans want policy to be carried out. Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump. And I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive, very much unlike his first term.
Yeah, and those numbers are what helped to get Trump elected. We all saw what the Democrats did. They lied to us. Even the Republicans did too. Senator Lankford, we need to codify 4,000 people coming across every day. Bunch of morons who are traitorous to what we were trying to accomplish, which is border security and a safe nation. But while the battle continues, we'll be here to continue to cover it, my friends. And I think we're going to be on the winning side on this one, because the Democratic Party has now sided with MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and gangbanger illegal aliens invading our country. So I think we'll stick with this one, and we'll see if they come to their senses, but we're not counting on that anytime soon. All right, and it's been a beautiful day, my friends. Thank you for joining us. If you just are joining us, quick recap on what we've talked about. We hit several Kilmar updates, and one of them was from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. And of course, they were not happy with what they read from the president. We read through Trump's request for a stay, saying discovery should not be ordered here at all, from Judge Zenas out of Maryland. And the Court of Appeals of the Fourth Circuit came back down, denied the stay. So we're waiting with bated breath to see what comes next from the president. But lots of reaction from the Democrats. They're still going down there. They love Kilmar Abrego. He's their new, he sets their hearts a fuego. And they're going to go support him, try to get him out of there. We listened to a bunch of clips on that one before we turned our attention to the actual report from the wife, who says that he beat her, he scratched her, gave her a purple eye, ripped her clothes off, was engaged in multiple acts of violence against her, should have been arrested, probably charged with multiple felonies, never was. Was also somebody who was investigated for human trafficking after picking up 7 people from Texas and driving them back to Maryland, got stopped for driving without a license, and Biden's FBI said, well, let him go. They got the documents on that at the Tennessee Star Tribune, and those documents will be released soon, no doubt about it. I'm sure AOC will love and support him even harder. We also then talked about Boasberg and are asking ourselves this question about why this case is continuing to progress now that the judge knows he's got no jurisdiction. He's trying to hold Trump in contempt for an order that was vacated, that was illegal, against the co-equal branch of government, and saying that he can do that based on other cases that are not in parallel at all. So strange things happening out of there. Judge has gone wild, and will, of course, continue to cover it here. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Very glad that you're here. and joining us. And I see some great donos and super chats. Thank you for sending those in. You're amazing. Thanks for supporting our work here. And let's see who's joining us. We got some great comments. It's a beautiful Thursday, my friends. We got 50 membos coming up. Woo! You know how much we love getting new membos here. And thank you for becoming a member. We had a great members only stream this morning, and we will have another one tomorrow morning. We got a lot of new donos today, my friends. You guys are amazing. So let's say hello. Who's coming in here today? Starting right here. It is almost Friday, and that's Judy, right? It is almost Friday. You know, Judy was, I think, a little bit before my time, but she seems like she was certainly a spunky lady. Hey, what's up? Tim Jake said, do Senator Van Hollen's efforts in El Salvador reach the levels of charges under the Logan Act? Yeah, this has come up a couple of times, Tim Jake. I looked it up a little bit. I mean, like, there's always an argument that yes, it does. I think you could say yes, it clearly does, because he's trying to negotiate with a foreign terrorist now. So I think you could make the arguments that the answer is yes. The question is, will it, or should it, or politically, is there precedent for it? And I don't think that there is. I mean, I think there was the situation with John Kerry where he was a former Secretary of State, still trying to meddle with Trump's crap. Nobody prosecuted him. We also had other senators, I think, like went down to Cuba one time and were like palling around with the Cubans. Nobody prosecuted them. So I think you could make the argument for it. Ultimately, I think if he did that, it would just turn him into a martyr, essentially. So I think the politics are bad enough that he'll suffer the consequences from that. Yeah. All right. So what's up? More here says, I just want to say something. Well, say it. Let's hear it. More here. What you got? Thanks for being a membo for 5 months. What's up? Knox is here. Hey, happy Thursday, all. Kilmar witness statements and the court is closed for Good Friday tomorrow. Life is good. Kilmar witness statements and court is closed for Good Friday. Oh, I got it. Yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day, in other words. Lucy? Oh, it's Lucy, not Judy. Oh, well, close. It's close. Ends with Y and has 2 syllables. Lucy, got it. Hey, what's up? Doan. Hey, co-equal. Hey, and shout out, Knox. I hope you have a beautiful Good Friday tomorrow. What's up to all of our friends? What's up? Doan is here. Says co-equal, and it's the weakest of the 3 by design. Yeah, the founders knew that the judges, right, the dictators in the robes, can be a problem. That's why it's the judiciary. Enforce it, right, if they can. Knox, hey, okay, opining here, but I see a connection to the whole East Court human trafficking system, of which Kilmar was a part. CIA contracts with MS-13 all the time. He was likely a mid-level mule, but there is your reason as to why this particular illegal is so wronged. They knew him. Yeah, well, and he was pretty, it seems like, embedded. He was a member of CASA, and he was a member of a union, AFL-CIO union. So he's a Democrat. Like, he's got folks who will circle the wagons around him. Says, and these dumb senators may not even know why he was picked for the prize, but he indeed has been picked. Yeah, you think, in other words, you think he's got some friends in the government. Here's a quote from Keith O. Says, if your life was a movie, what would you be yelling at the screen? If your life was a movie, what would you be yelling at the screen? That's a good question. I don't know. Like, I don't know, do something? Do something! Probably. That's what I'd scream. Knox is here. His wife has gotten some insights and highlights and a fashion redo courtesy of the Dem donors, much like CW's coach to testify in court by victims' witness staff. Yeah, she's certainly playing the part, isn't she? Got her all dressed up. Richard White says, every time I hear no jurisdiction, my mind goes to Theoden saying, you have no power here. Is that from Lord of the Rings or something? Is that what that is? Theoden? Thank you for that, Richard White, for being a membo and the dono. Jeffrey Adams, all of this chaos in the judiciary can be attributed to the weak leadership of Chief Justice Roberts and the poor writing of his opinions. Yeah. We got now conflicts with Boasberg and with Zenas, both as a direct result of SCOTUS. They could have settled it. They didn't. They gave the district court judges an opportunity to save face. They have not taken it, stupidly. And hopefully SCOTUS corrects it. We'll see if they do. Hey, what's up? No, that's you too shall not pass. That's right. That's that one. Yeah. That's that one. Yeah. I'm really botching the pop culture references today. Knox says, my fellow older peeps, remember this one? Oh, yeah. Elian Gonzalez, still a hero in Cuba 15 years later. Remember that? I remember that when I was younger. Yeah. Little Elias Gonzalez, the Cuban boy at the center of the two-country drama, is now a Cuban politician. Yeah, what was that? Like he was a castaway. He like landed here. We shipped him back or something. They sent in feds to come get him and send him back or something. What was that? Sandy, the situation with these judges surrounding deportations is elevated because of the AEA, national emergency and invasion. Although they have immunity in most situations, they are getting close to losing it in coordination of 192 cases in less than 100 days. Yeah, hit the judges with a RICO or something, right? What's up, Michelle? Hey, there was a German prisoner of war camp around my hometown. How did the federal government send the POWs back to Germany without a court hearing? Yeah, or yeah, a lot of things like that. Like, how did they intern a bunch of people without court hearings back during World War II? How did FDR do that? Oh, Alien Enemies Act. Oh, yeah. Hey, NY says, the Supremes announced hearing oral arguments likely to deal with TROs in May, just announced. Is that right? I also heard, I think that they took the 14th Amendment case, the birthright citizenship case, which will be fun. Mommy Mima. I was just thinking of all the American citizens that no one is screaming about bringing home. No. Especially if it's a white guy who's an American citizen. Definitely not. But if you're an illegal alien who invaded our country, beats your wife, and traffics other people across state lines, no problem. They'll fight hard for you. White Buffalo, no citizen of USA, then it's time to go home to El Salvador. That's right. That's where he is. He's in his home, where he should be. Membo for 11 months. Good to see you, White Buffalo. Thanks for that. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, great news. Muffin Rando's surgery went well. He's healing back at home. He's saying thanks for the prayers and the well wishes, fam. Good news. Shout out to Muffin Rando. Glad the surgery went well. And you're having something good, like some ice cream or something. What's up? Hey, here's a turtle walking very slowly. Tortuga Chica. What's up, Tortuga Chica? Good to see you. 5 membos coming in from Tortuga Chica. Ryan Hogan, welcome. Helium Hub Crypto Collective is here. We got Marlene joining us, Chad Preston, and Alan. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tortuga Chica. What's up? Thank you, Tortuga. Hey, JPB and AZ. Here's an ethics question. How are his attorneys getting around ethics rules that prevent attorneys from representing a client without their consent? If Kilmar hasn't talked to anyone since being arrested in Maryland, as stated by the Maryland senator and attorney for the family, how can his attorneys be filing all these documents in court on his behalf? I know a couple civil defense attorney who's been disciplined in Arizona for doing this very thing. Why not these lawyers? So I don't know what those civil defense attorneys got. I don't know what they were doing. Like if it's unauthorized action on behalf of a client or there's some disagreement about that. But people represent, my guess is that there's some knowing, you can hire lawyers on behalf of other people, and that, in other words, they're not doing something against Kilmar's wishes. Like if Kilmar didn't want this, then they wouldn't be representing him. So in other words, I'm not saying that there's a conflict there. I'm guessing like there should be a conflict. Like I'm guessing in those other cases, there was a conflict. The lawyers did something that the client didn't want them to do. So in this case, I'm guessing there's no conflict. And the requisite knowledge from Kilmar to be engaged in his defense is not maybe as high as you think it might be. So they're operating lawfully. In other words, JPB. I have to know more about what you're comparing it to. This old guy says Title 2, Article 11 of the Constitution of El Salvador says persons have the right to habeas corpus when any individual or authority illegally or arbitrarily restricts their liberty. Habeas corpus shall also proceed when any authority attacks the dignity or physical, mental, or moral integrity of a detained person. There you go. Thanks for looking that up, this old guy. They have a constitution down there in El Salvador. They can sue there. He can file habeas there. Abrego can file there. Amazing. Hey, Mock Schnell. Hey, life has been good to me again these last few days. The markets, you're crushing the markets, Mock Schnell. Also, glad that all those needed our prayers are doing better. Adding more membos. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. We got him coming in. Look who's coming in. 20 new membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Look who's here. Thanks, Mock Schnell, for sharing the love. Almighty Snoopy is here. Scuba Diva. We got Chevon. We got Jordan Thornton. Chaz Hatcher. David Ludwig. Dennis Mayo. We got Drew is here. What's up? Just Rhonda welcoming them in. TJ Roloff. What's up? Ice Baby. Undun dun 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 dun. We got Sue Colbert. What's up? Casey. Mad Wabbit. Tarlkov. What's up? Geeko Gadgets. Bonnie Fuller. TCBME. Deidre Boyd. Mike Donaldson. And Jay Heath gifted a membo courtesy of Mock Schnell. Great to see you. Thanks, Mock Schnell, for doing that. And congrats on your markets. Knox is here. Look at this. Yeah, Kilmar is now up to 222 G's, baby. That's some good money. A lot of super chats for being a terrorist, I guess. Hey, Fred Petamonte. Rob, can you please hit 500K subs already? We're trying, Fred. It's going extra slow. It's going slow. If you're watching and you haven't subbed already, we'd appreciate that a lot. Fred is also feeling the pain. Goes extra slow when you get closer to those numbers, just to make it hurt. Hey, one old guy says the U.S. government should go to all these inferior court judges, all these Democrats with this demand. Say, bring Rachel Morin back to life and back to her family, and we'll bring back Kilmar. Wow, that's pretty savage. Yeah. Hey, we'll trade you one. Trade you one. Bring her back. We'll bring him back. How about that? Oh, you can't do that because she's dead. Got it. Hey, Dot Pansy. Judge Zenos's name is Greek, and it's pronounced Z-Knees. Yeah, she says it's called C-Knees, is how her clerk says it. It's called C-Knees. Rhymes with weenie. That is the only fact in this drama with this judge that I can understand. Thanks for the help. Yeah, well, we mispronounce her name intentionally. When we do it with Andy NGO, that's out of love because we love Andy and he does amazing work. So we call Andy NGO because it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of a cool name actually. But I know it's Andy No. But I do appreciate the corrections every time we say it. I don't mean it to be offensive or inappropriate. We just like saying Andy NGO because it's cool. But Judge Zenos, we like to say Zenos because she's one of those people who I can guarantee you rages when you mispronounce it. Maybe Andy does too, and I should be more respectful of that. But rages. Because when her court clerks say C-Knees, I'm sure the lawyers who go into her courtroom are all very clear about it because she probably hates it. So we just call it Zenos because that's what it looks like and because it rhymes with the male appendage, which I'm sure really irritates her. Anyways, thanks for the comment, Dot. Hey, it's Greek. Cool. Hey, Deplorable, what's up? Why would you not prosecute for domestic violence? In most states, the state automatically picks up the charges. The wife has no say-so. Well, she didn't call the cops. Why didn't she call the cops? Because he would get arrested and deported. So she just wanted a TR, a temporary restraining order. This happens a lot. And then what also would happen probably is if she did call the cops, they would arrest him. Then they would charge him with a crime, and then she would not show up for trial. And then the case would get dismissed anyways. Rick D, what's up? Hey, Rick D, 11 months as a member. Rick, we really appreciate all your contributions. Thanks for being here for 11 months. Almost a full year. Happy anniversary to us. Hey, Jeff Monhe, the judge is out of line. He has no authority to usurp the Supreme Court's decision, but he is. And they're blaming Trump for a constitutional crisis. Can you believe it? Hey, Stacey Milliken. I'm honestly sick of people screaming due process. Do your research. He had it twice. Get with the program. He's an evil human. Afuera. Yeah, but they want him back. And they don't appreciate the fact that they spent all of this time and hard work and money to have our country invaded with 15 million people. They're like, you're ruining everything. So they're suing to stop it. What's up, Rob? They came in illegally. 11 million people can be legally be deported the way they came in. And the children they had in the U.S. can go with them. If they're not lawful citizens, if they're not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, why are they getting birthright citizenship? They shouldn't. Richard White, what's up? Says Judge Roberts was wrong about impeachment. No branch should be allowed to police itself, like the FBI investigating itself and finding they did nothing wrong. No accountability at all. That's endemic to our entire system of government. Thanks for the dono, Richard. Hey, Leonard, I propose that we rename Maryland Man to Neanderthal Man, or like Fentanyl Man, maybe, Gang Man, MS-13 Gangbanger Man, Wife Beater Man. Chubby, the judiciary continues to delegate all over the constitutional mandated separation of powers, maybe defecate, though through repeated and exponentially increasing absurdity and ridiculous rulings, all while SCOTUS in Congress continues to sit idly by, twiddling their thumbs. Is the American justice system truly lost? Is SCOTUS being willfully complicit in its downfall? I'm seriously starting to wonder. Something needs to be done about the leftist invasion and occupation of our legal system. Yep, defecate. It was defecate. They sure are. They're defecating all over it. They've been defecating all over the Constitution since they've been born. Thank you, Chubby. Hey, Uncle Bozy, I would love to see the Adam Schiff in CCAT with his head shaved, duck walking in his underwear with an El Salvadorian guard on each side. Adam Schiff tatted up like a race car driver for the gangbangers. One old guy says, all your judges get on the horn and call Bukele and you enjoin him. Yeah, why don't you enjoin Bukele to do it? If you have so much power, Judge, make him do it too. Thank you, this old guy, or one old guy, for the dono. Hey, Hugo Itano, what's up, Hugo? Thanks for joining up as a member. We'll see you tomorrow on the Membo stream. Lyndon, 8 months as a member. One more month. We got a full baby here. Thank you, Lyndon, for being here for so long. One old guy says, drunken Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, she's really sending a lot of smoke signals over there. Don't. Someone mentioned positivism law here the other day. Marcusian dialectics in the judiciary spells the end of our republic as we've known it since 1788. Hey, Sheila Poo says, crazy lefties got to investigate as what they accuse Trump of doing, they are doing, right? Their confession is coming through their projection. What they claim the other side is doing is them. One old guy says, look at Kilmar's 304 with those 304 fake eyelashes. From one old guy, Rob says, CNN said that 50% of America want these deportations versus 38% previously. She wants to see her husband, so she can go see her husband in El Salvador. Uncle Bozy says, I need to invest in laser tattoo removal companies. I bet the business is booming. Yeah. All Trende Aragua's lining up out the door. Hey, what's up, Richard White? Thank you, Richard, for bringing in a new membo. Jeff Monhe coming in. Good to see you, Jeff. Mock Schnell is here. Says, her children's statement, not saying this terrorist, fits the same. I have one son, but now my special lady has 3 children, and I look on them as mine, and I treat them as if they are mine. Yeah, I think that's right. And I have a stepfather who I treat as my father, so I understand that completely. In the immigration context, it's always curious because you also think about that as being exploited, like marriage or having kids is like as an anchor to keep somebody in the country. So that's why it adds that element to it. Whether that's appropriate or not, whether that's realistic or not, I don't know, but it is a reality of the practice. One old guy, ask any Border Patrol agent. It actually came up in his case, right? The judge was even saying, even if they get married, I'm not sure that gives him a basis to stay here, said the judge. One old guy's opinion said, ask any Border Patrol agent about how illegal aliens cover their eyes when caught in the ranches, thinking they will not be seen by the agent. Like if they can't see you, you can't see them. All right. Sheila Poo. Hey, Sheila. Thanks for the reminder. Like to this channel, subscribe to this channel, share this channel, and gift those membos if you can do it. Thank you, Sheila, for the reminder and the flag. Hey, Wes Downer calls her Zenus, warrior princess. Hey, it's Chansley. We got a Jacob Chansley emoji, courtesy of Just Rhonda. You're amazing. Shout out to Jacob. Happy Easter, Wes. Happy Easter to you. Hey, Clark Blount is here. Clark Blount in the house, bringing in 20 membos. Thank you, Clark, for doing this one. Look who's coming in, 20 new friends. We got Grumpy Old Studios is here. What's up, Valerie W? What's up, Sandy Cohendorfer? We got Liz Fletcher, the Infinite Mike, Ashton Gifted One, Jeremy Jenkins. We got Short Round. What's up, Christopher Anderson? Mech is here. James Winkler, Michael Edwards. Psychological Projectionist. We got Mana Online, Christopher Helton, Body Language Interrogation Trial. P Bear and M Bear here. We got Jeremy Bear. We got Pixel Chick, Ernie D. All gifted membos, courtesy of Clark Blount in the house. Clark, thanks for bringing in our new membo friends. Hey, what's up, Q Essence? Thank you, Q Essence, for signing up. We'll see you tomorrow. And grab the stream from this morning. New membos. We had a great stream this morning. One old guy says Jennifer MS13 304 Vasquez of Kilmar MS13. Yeah, that's a good name. Hey, no hate, Rob. It's pronounced Andy No. I know it is. I just got to retire that one, I think. What's up? Hey, Rob says, if they force Trump to bring Garcia back, the DOJ should prosecute the judge, not only for violating the separation of powers, the judge should be charged for harboring an illegal alien. From Rob. What's up, Elucidation Station? My girl would be so pissed at me if she had to go read some script in front of God and everybody live on TV in the hopes of getting me out of jail. She might just leave my butt there, right there for that. That's right. Sounds like you had a good girlfriend. She should be mad at you for that. Yeah. You're a terrorist? I didn't know you're a terrorist. The hell are you doing being a terrorist? Why are you in El Salvador? Yeah, she should be mad. Hey, what's up, Clark? 50 membos. Clark brought 50 membos. That's amazing. Okay, so we don't have an opportunity to welcome all of the 50 membos, but there's a lot of them. And let me make sure that I don't have them on my end. But they went so fast we couldn't grab them. Let me see here. We might have some of them here. No, you don't see them. Clark, you did 250 membos? Oh my goodness. And Bruce did too? The heck? You guys are amazing. All right, so here Donut is clipping for us. And here's the message. We got so many new membos. Can't even welcome them all in. Clark, thanks for bringing them in. You know who you are if you got a membo from Clark. But man, it's just so many membos. We can't even keep track of them. So thanks for doing that. Clark, really, really generous. Thanks for doing that. 50 new membos. You knew who you are. Yeah, this person, you got one, you got one, you got one, you got one, you got one. Welcome. Times 50. Clark, thanks for doing that. Really awesome. Hey, what's up? This one is Trump here. Mark, this is huge. Mark Massengill. Thank you, Mark. 5 more membos coming in over here. We got Christy. Easy Money Hicks is here. We got Matthew Perry, Benjamin, and the Salty Stoner, Ohio. Bringing in 5 new membos. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Mark, for doing that one. One old guy says, Kilmar's actions make him MS-13 Sharia law man. Sharia law man. Could be true, too. It's just Sharia law or gang law. Deluxe Knight says, good night, all. And thank you, Rob. All the news about James and her fraud today was awesome. And that was yesterday's show, right? Pretty sure. Yeah. Hey, but anyways, Deluxe Knight, thanks for being here, man. Hey, Sheila Poo, he is MS-13, and I posit MS-13 is threatening her now. That's why we're seeing her on the mainstream media. Hey, Chat With Me shared that link. That was from the Tennessee Star. Says the TBI say they have no knowledge of Garcia, but Star still says there's info available. Yeah, that's the article that we read there. Thanks for sending that one in, Chat With Me. That was a great article. We got this one coming in from Knox. Said Tennessee is pretty far from Maryland, but very close to D.C. Maybe he was delivering kids to some event. Maybe that's why the senators are so happy with him. Sharpie Guy, has anyone else noticed how these types of people seem to have their heads tilted back in defiance? Maybe it's just me, but I've dealt with them a time or two, and I become aware. Picking up some body language there, Sharpie Guy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I can see it too. Hey, Clark Blount. We got 50 more membos, and we caught some this time. All right, amazing. Thank you, Clark. Super generous. Thank you for doing this. Look who's here. Gruntle Drunt. We got Melissa Hardy, Joe Lazaro. What's up, souls? We got Giovanni Looney. Water, Earth, Mud is here. Sassy and Free, the windy one. We got Maddie, John Tyler, George Falk. We got Death's API, Jim S., JH, Kuda Brown. Welcome. Mandy, Frank, Paracan. We got Ingrid Zlitzer, Chris Kane. Welcome aboard, Angela Ashkins, Lost in Tunes, Denard Nixon. We got Beatrix Rumford. We got Off Grid Living, Lori Treckner, Chris Folsom, Jacoby Monsoon, S. Young, Eniacs. We got Grace Ann Corey Olson, Rich Cooper, Mike Ethington, Wyatt Bronson, P51, JJ, Simon Ravenscroft, He's, Johnny Fulls, Monic Basket, Michael Joyner, Long Hunter, Lamont Grissom, Less Than 3 Entertainment, Tree Tiger, Matthew Zadstocki, Cato Sicarius, and Milo Becker. Woo! 50 new members, courtesy of Clark. Clark, thanks for doing that. 50 new friends. Welcome. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. Hey, Rhino Poop. What's up, Rhino Poop? Rob, great to see. Great job this week. I've not been able to see much of you live, but get to see some of the recordings. Sensible, dead serious, with the right amount of humor and satire. This is all deep poop we're working out of, and you make understanding it fun too. You're right about that. Lots of government poop that we're digging ourselves out of. Thanks for saying that, Rhino Poop. It means a lot coming from you, especially. So I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Doan, Andy NGO, it sounds like no. He's Vietnamese, an American. He regularly risks life and limb to speak truth to power, bringing in live reports from lefty rallies. I haven't decided what I'm going to do on this one. I kind of like agitating everybody by just calling him Andy NGO. I haven't decided yet. I might continue to do it, but I might not. We'll have to see. One old guy's opinion says, 2021 Maryland Statutes Family Law, Title 4, Spouses, Subtitle 5, Domestic Violence. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Mock Schnell says, sounds like she has Helsinki syndrome, and most people suffering from domestic violence say the person that did it to them is a good person, and it's their fault for not doing more to them for them. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it sounds like she might be stuck. Like if she's a single mother of 3 now, that's kind of a tough spot for her. So I don't know. Is he her source of income, source of revenue? Like, is she totally screwed without the dude? So is she anchored in? Yeah, one old guy says Maryland domestic violence, a violation by prohibited person can result in misdemeanor or felony penalties under state law. Also says, I hope they're filing all that Kilmar paper in their case file. Yeah, there's going to be a lot more coming out on this dude, I would suspect. Sharpie Guy says, another great show, brother. Thank you, Sharpie Guy. Really appreciate you being a member on Locals. Angela Fayeen says, why did the state attorney not prosecute the DV charge? Well, I don't think she reported it, right? So she didn't call the cops. The cops were not involved. Once the incident was over, they're less likely to investigate it anyways. She didn't report it. She didn't call it in. She just wanted an order of protection. So went and filed it, thought that was good enough, didn't want to press charges. So they didn't pick it up on their own. And there are many reasons for that, right? She may not have been a cooperative witness in a criminal prosecution. She just wanted him to not hurt her. Like, there are many reasons why people do this, but she may not have wanted him to go to jail, right? I don't want him to go to jail or get deported. I just don't want to be hurt. So probably something like that. Stacy Milliken says, ignore my previous super chat. Andy NGO it is, lovingly. So like, it's a funny thing because it originally started out just as a thing, like Andy NGO, Andy NGO, Andy NGO, Andy NGO. And sometimes, I like to play with you sometimes and have some fun. So when people correct me, then I just say, oh, Andy NGO, thank you for explaining it. And it's just kind of like a back and forth. But if it becomes too agitating, then it's not fun anymore. But thank you for that, Stacy Milliken. I appreciate it. Thanks for the corrections. What's up, Doan? Okay, Rob. Then just take that as a dough NGO. Hey! See, you're playing with me back. Oh, then just take that as my last as a dough NGO. Amazing, Doan. See? Very nice. See, very fun. There's not really a reason for that one though. Like there's no real reason to call him NGO. It's like, it's just, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny because it makes me seem like a moron. That's why I think it's funny. It's like, oh, he doesn't know it's Vietnamese. He doesn't know it's pronounced no. It kind of makes you feel like a dumb, like American, like Andy NGO. What is that? That's not how you pronounce it. So I think it's self-effacing more than anything. It's not about Andy. It's about me. It's like, that guy doesn't know what his name is. And then I have to get corrected about it. It's like, Rob, it's Andy. No, it's like, oh, Oh, it is? It's why I think it's funny. Anyways, but apparently it's not that funny. Hey, Jerry Brodus. Jerry Brodus in the house. Do other people call him NGO? Maybe we can start it as a thing. Jerry Brodus, what's up? Thank you for becoming a membo. One old guy's opinion says, the Latino German Sandoval Mossberg looks like a cock-a-doodle-doo and a pencil neck shift got combined. That's that's true. I can see it. Sharpie guy. Hey, just an attaboy, my friend. Thank you, Sharpie guy. Really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Attaboy, I appreciate that one. Hey, Clark is here. 50 more membos, Clark. Clark. Super generous, my friend. I think that's 150 membos. 150 membos in total from Clark. Sorry, too many at once. Lost those two. Clark. Clark, you're giving Donut Mind Me an aneurysm over there. He's trying to capture all these donos, man. But we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sending them in. 150 new friends. You know who you are, courtesy of our friend Clark. Wow, just amazing. And Donut, really, thanks for doing that. Thanks for trying to clip it. It's actually good. It's kind of wrecking my vocal cords. Just kidding. I appreciate that. Clark, really, thanks again for doing it. Donut, thanks for capturing everything you can. You're amazing. Bruce! Rice, baby. Dun, 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 dun. How many membos have we gotten today? Oh, my goodness. Bruce. Thank you, my friends. Oh, my goodness. At 50 more membos, there's too many to capture. We can't even capture them. And I can't even see them on my end. I can't see, it doesn't dish them out on I can't see who they went to other than we got them. Bruce, thanks for doing that. 50 new friends. You guys know who you are. We're going to be so lit tomorrow on the members only morning stream. It's going to be Bonanza. And these, and Clark did. Clark, what is happening? Clark, what the hell is happening right now? How many members is this? What is happening? Clark, unbelievable, dude. Thank you for this. We don't even know. Unbelievable, dude. 100. How many? What's the total? How many members? Clark, thank you so much, brother. I don't even know what to say. There's a lot of friends to welcome in. Absolutely amazing. So friends. Let us all say thank you to Clark for bringing in so many new membos and Bruce and all of our friends. I can't even believe it. That's insane. Clark, really awesome of you. Thanks for doing that. And my friends, we're going to meet a ton of new people tomorrow. The members stream is going to be at 12 noon Eastern on Friday, and I can't wait to meet everybody. We had I think 150 before we got these 150. It's like 300, I think. 500? I don't know what the numbers are. Clark, really amazing, dude. And welcome to everybody. That's a lot of people coming in. 150 people in this. Was it 500? Might be 500 people. Clark, we love you, man. Thank you for doing that. Really generous of you to do that. And people really appreciate the membos. So, we get people in the chats. Clark, I know we see you as a membo, but people really appreciate it. So thanks for doing that. Just wild. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Clark, super generous of you. Thanks for doing that. Hey, what's up, Uncle Bozy? The fact that Boasberg was a FISA court judge explains so much. The FISA judges were on Crossfire Hurricane. The whole system was and is rotten. I remember in Trump's first term, waiting for the FISA court to raise hell about the FBI's dishonesty and in some cases perjury. What I heard was crickets. What an idiot I was. Heck, I even rolled my eyes at the idea of a deep state back then. Just a few rotten apples, I thought. Stupid, Uncle Bozy. Makes me mad. Yeah, the facade on all of it comes crumbling down. I know what you mean. And I have very much the same reaction. I mean, I love the law. I love the Constitution. I love the logic of it. I love rights. I love the science of the politics. And you want to believe that there are good people that are behind these things because you kind of are raised believing in the institution. Then you learn it's not really what you thought it was, and it's a bummer. Leonard S. New Democrat bumper sticker called Hug a Thug. Yeah, maybe that could be their new campaign memo. They could have MS-13 gang members up there on stage with them. Hey, Ken L. says, reach out to your Congress representative to legislate mandatory E-Verify for employment with harsh penalties for employers that violate it. This is the quickest self-deportation. From Ken L. Yeah, and there was a question about that with the AFL-CIO. Like, why were they hiring an illegal alien called Kilmar? Philip Butler, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, right? Yeah, he did with those journalists, right, and Civil War. S. Quinn is here. Says, so saw these posted on X. That guy must have a rap sheet. I'm not sure who those folks are on that one. But thank you for sharing that one, S. Quinn. I'm not sure what that one is. Doan says, Bozo's request is a step closer to ending habeas, says Doan. Good to see you, Doan. What's up, Deplorable One? I wonder if Letitia James will try to use taxpayer funds for her defense. Something to keep our eye on. She's going to try to make it political, and it's not. No, it's mortgage fraud. Not even complicated. Hey, Clark Blount. What's up, Clark? Lincoln arrested the Maryland legislature. Was it the legislature? That's interesting. I thought it was journalists, but I'd have to brush up on my Lincoln habeas history. But yeah, he did suspend it. Good to see you, Clark. Thanks again. Hey, what's up? One old guy. Harry's segment always makes the CNN's hosts' faces looks like they're constipated. Yeah, she did look rough. Like, okay, tell us again about how everyone loves Trump. What's next, Harry? Hey, that was Lucille Ball, bro. Oh, I thought it was Judy Garland. Is she a different person? But she looks kind of the same, right? Hey, C. John. What's up, C. John? Thank you for bringing in 5 new membos. Jenna got one. Will Crump. Jimbolaya James is here. Limitless UAV, G-Lander all got membos courtesy of C. John. C. John, thanks for doing that. Hey, Clark Blount. Maybe time to set new precedent. What do you mean, like with 500 membos being donated on a live stream? That might be new precedent. I know that's not what you're talking about, but that's kind of what you did. Thank you, Clark. But yes, on new precedent, I think we're going to. The Supreme Court will, as soon as they come down and issue some rulings. One old guy says, I would be yelling, WTF just happened. A lot of that going on today. Yeah. Hey, Niels, 14 months as a membo. Here in the Netherlands, it's 2 a.m., which means it's a Friday. You're ahead of us. It's Friday already over there. Good to see you, Niels. Thanks for watching in from the Netherlands. Very cool to see you. I would like to visit your land one day. Rhino Poop. Just call him Judge because I said so. It's not Judge Boasberg. It's just Judge because I said so. Yeah, that's good. Sheila Poo. I would be yelling. Oh, I see. What would you be yelling at the screen? WTF just happened is what you would be yelling. I would be yelling, can't these judges read? Says Sheila Poo. That's funny. Run Mead. Working on repairing 30 years of Fed speak and relearning how to write concise thoughts in English. The courts are conspiring to create a full employment situation for immigration lawyers. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just, their industry, immigration law right now is wild. Businesses are going from like 0 to like 100 million, like that. It's crazy because there's a need. The government created a class of 15 million customers. Crazy. One old guy. Elian's daddy was in Cuba. Mother died, went wet foot, dry foot, journeyed to USA. Elian's daddy wanted him back. Family had no right to custody of Elian. Is that what it was? Yeah. Stacy Milliken says, you can't handle the truth is what I would yell. You can't handle the truth. That's a good one to yell. Rick D. Bernie Sanders spent 221 G's on private jets amid fighting the oligarchy tour. Well, he doesn't want to fly with the peasants, obviously. Hey, Michelle. Looking forward to the 14th Amendment case. Where can I listen to these? I accidentally found it once, but I can't find it now. You mean on the SCOTUS Supreme Court oral arguments? Well, I mean, the day of, they're usually broadcast everywhere. So C-SPAN, I think, is normally where we listen in on. But that will be when the arguments happen, and I'm not sure when they will be. But yeah, I mean, they're all over YouTube is really where we go. Mikhail. Niels, I can't imagine that the Supreme Court eventually will not rule in Trump's favor. It would be irresponsible. I tend to agree, Niels. I think that they think longer term. Like the lower level judges are thinking about the impact on Trump. The Supreme Court is thinking about the impact on the presidency and the future of the country. Jason Dusak. Hey, any idea what the political strategy the left is pursuing by going all in on the return of this guy? Are they trying to set a precedent that usurps Article 2 powers, and why? Yeah, so I think it's several things. One it's a political attack. So this is the case where Trump's DOJ has admitted an error, an administrative error. Now, I don't see it as an error. I think that the new legal team is not seeing it as an error, but they poisoned this case, the Kilmar case specifically, with that error. So politically, it makes Trump look lawless. It makes him look like he's violating a court order. So they're trying to set up an impeachment or a contempt trap. So it's about politics ultimately. I think the legal facts are not on their side at all. And the judges have found that. And even this due process stuff and all of it, the facts are just not on their side. So, long term, they want to create, if you want to ask about precedent, create a precedent whereby deportations have a bunch more due process than they already have now, so that it mucks up the deportation process. So rather than the executive branch making the decision about deportation, now it's an Article 3 judge that makes that decision, and it stops Trump. We've got 20 million people to get out of here. If you bring the courts in on it, it slows it down. Rick D shared this article from the Tennessee Star, great article. Michelle says, hey, no need to read this, but we will. But never mind meeting Robert. I want to meet his mom to give me guidance on raising kids. Her son is a good man. Man, that's a really nice compliment, Michelle. And I have an amazing mother. And she's coming up here for Mother's Day. And we're going to, I think, record some content. So we'll get to meet her a little bit more. Maybe we'll do it live. But we're going to make some meatballs up here and share the meatball recipe. Probably do that with our membos. So, Michelle, thanks for that. And it's a real nice, everything, I think Lincoln said it, all that I am or hope to be, I owe to my darling mother. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Michelle, for that. Love you, Mama. Hey, James, imagine what MS-13 would do to her if she snitched. That's true. Could be problem for her. She might be under their thumb, under duress. Rhino Poop says, if Andy is bisexual, you could call him Bingo? I don't know what that's referencing, Rhino Poop. Rick D. Hey, not sure you heard, Robert, but the shooter at Florida State is the son of a sheriff's deputy who used his dad's weapons to commit the shooting. Oh, that's horrific. So we pause and pray and remember what happened, to our friends and families who were hurt there today in Florida. That was horrific. That's horrible. Thanks, Rick. Number one deplorable. If that congressman is able to bring him back, charge the congressman with human trafficking. Yeah, for bringing in it's apparently 7 people from Texas to Maryland. Don't know if they were illegal or if they checked that at all. Hey, James is here, says this $2 says keep saying NGO. Yeah, and as I talked it through, it makes me look like I don't want to say it if it because oftentimes we mispronounce people's names to be rude to them. So I don't want to think that that's what's happening with Andy. I think it's being rude to me, which is why I think it's funny. Because everybody says, right, it's Andy, no, idiot. And I just keep saying NGO. That's why it's funny, which is why we'll probably keep doing it. Thank you, James. Doan, the wife is a story waiting to develop and be told. Yeah, there's probably a lot more to this. And maybe she's got some friends or some text messages or some people she's complained to or some other cases somewhere else, other traffic offenses. Yeah. American Made, what's up? Welcome aboard as our newest supporter. I'll see you tomorrow. JBP in Arizona says, here's a clarification on the ethics questions. They were insurance defense attorneys hired by insurance company to represent the insureds. Yeah. Okay. So attorneys filed answers on behalf of the insured defendant without speaking to them. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because this is because the insurance companies, the insurance company defense attorneys. So let me finish before I jump into the answer. To protect them against default judgments. When clients couldn't be produced for disc or depots, attorneys admitted they had never spoken to the clients and they were disciplined. Double standard. I'm thinking so. So, yeah. And again, when you talk about insurance companies, yeah. So the insurance company hired insurance company defense attorneys, and the insurance company defense attorneys were probably representing the insurance company, not the insured. Okay, so there's a conflict there. In other words, the duty of loyalty from the attorneys was to the company, not to the insureds. And the lawyers filed on behalf of the insureds when they actually owed their duty to the company. So there was a conflict. So they were not actually representing the insured's interest. They were representing the company's interest. So they got in trouble. I don't think that's happening here. This is, in this case, they're actually representing Kilmar's interests. But if they weren't, if they were representing Casa's interest, or if they were representing someone else's interest, then maybe. But the insurance companies are totally scammy. So that's why that is what that was. Data. Does anybody on Rumble, does anybody know where I can get my tattoo changed from MS-13 to AA-48 battery? I forgot to join the local union. No license, no friends in the FBI. Forgot to pick up the gang at the border, and I'm not married. It's a great question. Yeah. It's a great question. If anybody knows how to do that, Data could use some help. Abrego probably does. He probably has a guy. If anybody can get in touch with him. You just have to, the M, you just have to turn it into an A. And the S, you got to turn into another A. And then you can turn the I into a 4. That should be easy. The 1 into a 4, that's easy. And the 3 can go into an 8, no problem. So you can easily turn that, yeah. Good luck with that, Data. You'll have some senators coming to help you out if you need them. Hey, Sheila Poo! Clark, 200 new membos, 50 times 4. I feel like there was more than that, but I don't know. Hey, one old guy says, pronounce NGO like NGO. Oh, from one old guy. Mikkel Heim says, you've gotten thousands of membos today, thanks to Clark. It certainly looks like that. Mikkel, thank you for that. It was amazing. Clark, thanks again. You're incredible. Hey, Doan says, I like to think we're here for good reason. Ooh, be ooh. Ooh, be ooh. Is that like short for like Robbie or something? Is that what you're calling me now? Ooh, you be you. You be you. I like to think we're here for good reason. You be you. Thank you, Doan. Yeah. Yeah. We'll let that one marinate. Rhino Poop says, he's not Clark. He's the Cape Crusader. He's not Clark Blount. He's Superman. I think you might be right, Rhino. Bill Dozer. Hey, I hit a year of streaming at midnight tonight, Bill Dozer. Started with 2 streams a week, then 3, now 4. Still having fun infotaining the kill dozers in the Dozer Den Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 9:30 p.m. Central. And man, that's awesome, Bill Dozer. So check out Bill Dozer's channel at Bill Dozer 74. And I got educated today about this raid functionality that I don't know anything about. So I'm going to look into that, Bill Dozer. But maybe one day you can set up your stream so that we can send people to you as soon as we're done here. And I'm learning how to do that. Same with all of our friends. I know Just Rhonda streams and Voice of the People streams. So I'm learning about that. But that might be fun to figure out how to do. Anyways, congrats on it. Keep it going, man. Streaming's amazing. And I'm glad you're putting out the good work over there. Bill Dozer, check him out. Knox is here. Says protective orders are civil. The DA may not have even known. Yeah, I think that's right. They're not, it's not a criminal complaint. So she was just going just to get the order. If he would have violated the order, she could have charged him with another crime or complained about another crime. This old guy, there are great people behind our government, but they've been dead for 200 years. I know, and we're still like riding their coattails of liberty. We need to create our own anchors of liberty, not ride on the coattails of the dead generation. And that's what we're doing here. Thank you, this old guy, for helping. Sheila the Pooh, great to see you. Hey, we got 10 members. Sheila, we got Mama Bear Forever coming in. Mike Smith, welcome. YB, Tanya Giles, Kai VTG. We got Flat Rock, Mamo Semelli, Social Crusader, Dust Bunny. We got the Frosty Pepper and more. Man, amazing to have you coming in. Thank you, Sheila Pooh, for bringing in 10 more membos. We're going to be lit tomorrow. S. Quinn is here. All right, it's the guy talking at the press conference today for Kate Lott Anthony. The high school stabbing incident. Carmelo, sorry, yeah. Yeah, I saw that today. I think that they were doing a press conference and the father showed up and they asked him to leave. And he didn't even stab anybody on the throat, in the chest on the way out. Pretty nice. Bonnie, I can explain why the union hired him in the spring of 2024. The judge in 2019 who stayed his deportation gave him a work permit, even though he was here illegally. Is that right? Thank you, Bonnie, for that. I'll have to reread that order. That's nice of the judge to do that. To go like start a pupusa business again. Project Calm. Sounds like Garcia's wife hurt business and got some MS-13 marriage counseling and reconciliation. Which of the dad's work friends is watching her kids? Ugh. Yeah. Which of the dad's work friends is over there hanging out with mom? Yeah. Peng1. What's up, Peng1? In the house. Great to see you. We got this one coming in from Karen Marie as a new member. Peng1, thanks for it. We got Nathan Nix, Eugene Nicholas, Jones' mom, and Nolan, all gifted membos, courtesy of Peng1, bringing in 5 new membos. Hey, Sheila Poo, reminding you that if your thumbs work, there is a like button right there on the screen. Very easy to hit if you can. It says, hit that like button now. Thank you, Sheila, for the reminder. Hey, Deluxe Knight says, I love hearing about other men out there taking responsibility of being a father, even when the DNA doesn't match. All 7 of my awesome children are adopted. I was not blessed with my own genetic catapult. No regrets. I love each and every one of them. I've been blessed with 2 grandbabies from them so far, and I'm only 43 years young. That's amazing. Congratulations to you, man, Deluxe Knight, Farmer Deluxe Knight in the house. Yeah, that's great. And I totally believe in that. As I said, my father, my stepfather, I consider to be my father. So I understand that completely and cherish that relationship. My point was that there are other situations where people will get married or have babies to solve an immigration problem. And that happens. Michael McKenna, ask Kilmar to name his favorite current Bulls player. Probably doesn't have one. Former says, remember the good old days when an I-9 was needed for employment before our country was taken over by people who hate our country? Yeah. I don't remember that. My whole life, immigration has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest issue. Of course, I'm an Arizona boy, so it's been an issue here forever. It's only now become a little bit more national because we got smart and started to ship the illegals into other parts of the country since we can't take them all here. But now we're getting some people responding back. What's up? All right. So my friends, honestly, thank you so much for those donos. You guys are extremely generous and we got a tremendous amount of new membos. Can't wait to see everybody tomorrow. And I'm very appreciative for it. Everybody, thank you again for doing that. I'm speechless, essentially. So thanks for that. All right. So it was fun. We also want to say what's up to our friends on X. We got Elliot over there who says, okay, so our friend Elliot does some great work on X and he's also on Substack, says, here's the full list of stuff with applications to vacate updated as of April 17th. Okay. So like if you're looking for lists and details, Elliot is Docmaster and he's over there on X at Philip ICAE. Check it out. Says, I haven't seen an application from the Fourth Circuit yet. So we haven't seen that case be appealed yet. And says, what would Zinnis's next step be if the government updated saying, in spite of discontent over the trespass, Bukele would grant release as a goodwill gesture as soon as Zinnis and other overreaching judges resigned? That would be fun. Yeah, we'll let him go as long as this judge resigns. Here's the Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit from Fred Pedamonte. Looks about like what you'd expect over there. What's up? Fred says, if I had a nickel for every time I pulled, yeah. What's up? Political contrast. We got a nice timeline here. Very, very cool. Our friend Bonnie also posted a good timeline. Kagro says his wife and kids can go join him in El Salvador. Mary says, these judges are showing how totally ignorant of the Constitution they are. Michael, it's up to the Supreme Court to rein in the rogue judges. Callie, the absurdity of everything right now. I'm at wit's end. And Alvy says, how can there be such a wide difference of judges and their opinions? Well, because many of them deviate from the Constitution and try to use the law to reach an end that they want to reach. And they back themselves into that outcome and they use the law to get there. So some great comments on X, my friends. Thanks for saying hello over on X. And we'd appreciate that. Yeah, what's up? Uncivil. Uncivil came by. I try to raid at the end of all my streams. And you can do it on YouTube. It's called a redirect on YouTube. What's up, Uncivil? Good to see you. Yeah. And does it only work for live people? I'll have to figure out how to do it. Like I'm looking at it right now. We're looking at it right now. Stream health, no. Viewer activity, no. Stream settings, no. Edit, maybe it's in the edit button. Where is this? Possibly edit. Not seeing it there. All right, so I'll figure this out. Oh, here it is, redirect. Search videos, search your videos from other channels. Is somebody live right now? I think somebody's live right now. Let me see if, I think Viva might be live right now. Here, let's try this. We're going to try to figure this out. I think, is Viva live right now? Viva's live. Okay, so we're going to try that. We're going to try to do Viva. And then I think I have to like add other stuff. Okay, so Viva rated us yesterday. All right, so we're doing that. This is our first. We're going to try to send you over to Viva if that happens. Viva's live, right? Off labels live. All right, let me do that. Let me see if I can do that. All right, if off labels live, we'll send to off label, and then we'll come. Let me see. I can't. I'm not. It's not on my approved list yet. Okay, off label. We'll come back. We'll get you another time. I definitely want to hit you guys up. So we're going to try this right now. I think I have to add you like into a list or something. I'm looking at it right now. So we're going to send off to Viva right now. Of course, we're going over to an after party, and we'll figure that out moving forward because that I think will be fun to do. Mikkel, hey Rob, will donuts give us the unprecedented new Membo tally so YouTube can hear our celebratory shout out? We got some analysis to do. We're going to have to like get like an accountant, I think, to help us calculate all this, like spreadsheets and stuff. I don't know what we'll see on in the aftermath on Membos, but really generous, Mikkel. Thank you for flagging that. Really, really generous. Hey, Donut calculated it. Hey, Mikkel, 356 total, if I calculated correctly, and 270 from Clark. Amazing. That is so many Membos. Oh my gosh, that's really amazing. So I can't wait to see everybody tomorrow. We really have a lot of fun Membo streams. We try to, we do, I think, deliver for our Membos. I know there are other, like I've been Membos of other communities. They're like, I'll talk to you once every 6 months or something. It's like, no, we do streams in the mornings, 5 days a week. And then we do a Saturday stream for our Membos. So it's really, I think, a ton of value. And so Clark and everybody who brought Membos in, Bruce Rice and Sheila Poo and everybody, thanks for bringing in the Membos. I think it's the most valuable Membo that you can find. We have a ton of fun. We have the best Membos of all time anyway, so it's well worth it. All right, and thanks for bringing them in. Okay, so we're going to try this raid thing on Viva. Of course, we're going over to locals, and then I'll figure out the raids, and we'll start doing that because I think that's a great idea. A very smart idea. So we'll do that. But my friends, before we wrap it up on the day, I want to say thank you once again for being here and for all your support. Could not do it without you. And it's a real treat and a privilege and an honor to spend this time with you. We want to thank our mods as well. Our amazing friends, K-Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playin Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek, modding the fort down for us. Elliot, Doc Master in the place up. Just Rhonda, emojiing the place up. And our friend Giga memeing the fort down for us. My friends, that is where we will leave it on the day. Locals, friends, stick around. We'll hang out for a bit. Membos, we're coming back tomorrow morning, 12 noon Eastern. We'll see you then. Many of you and many more. Thanks, Clark, once again for that epic drop. But we'll stop right there. Tomorrow, we're coming back, and tomorrow's going to be a Friday. We're happy about that. But we'll pause here for the evening. And, of course, tomorrow, when we do come back here, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.